We'd love to know where you are watching us from this morning, so feel free to interact with us. We are using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle ever remains to be at KBC Channel 1, individually at Ray Manyara, at Doreen Range, at Victor Olo, and at Jane Boy is how you can find us. Doreen.
Yes, and a beautiful morning to you, viewers. Always a pleasure to have you on board, joining us Monday through Thursday from 6:30 all the way to 10 a.m. Now, is it going to be freedom of association or fidelity to coalition agreements? That is what we're waiting to see tomorrow, as now the battle has moved to Parliament. Clearly, Azimio by law has the numbers, but Kenya Kwanza looks like to be ahead when it comes to how things might sort of pan out, and this has obviously been seen by the troops or by the parties, or so to speak, even independent candidates who have moved to that side. So clearly a lot is awaited for in respect to how tomorrow will pan out from 9 a.m. Again, also what we wait to see is that is it going to be Wetangula or Kalonzo for the National Assembly Speaker? Also, from what we know is that both Marende and Kalonzo have picked nomination papers for both National Assembly as well as Senate, more like a multi-bid, so to speak, in respect to how it's going to pan out. So clearly that and so much more is also what we're just covering for you. Clearly also on the show, plenty more in store for you this Wednesday morning. What is happening and what the different dailies are holding for you, as well as interesting conversations coming your way. Stay put up until 10 a.m. I'm Doreen Arange Okello. Regina.
Being the 7th of September 2022, we're glad that you made time. As you heard there, I'm Regina Manyara. Now we are all focused on what is going to be the next battlefront for Ruto and Ryland. We're talking about the issue of House Speakers, where the numbers are likely to carry the day. Now, the clerks of Parliament have already invited those who are interested, or rather interested Kenyans, to pick their nomination papers before the elections that are slated for tomorrow. And so far, Kenya Kwanza has fronted Moses Wetangula, while Azimio is pushing for Kalonzo Musyoka's election as the National Assembly Speaker. Which way will it go? KBC Channel 1 is going to be on hand to bring you that update as soon as we have it. So this is indeed the right place to be. We are about to bring you the latest in as far as news, so do not go away. We take a quick breather. We'll be right back. Good morning. If you're just joining us, this is In the Headlines, and I am Regina Manyara. Now, the Presidential Assumption Office Committee has declared Tuesday, September 13th, 2022, a public holiday for Kenyans to witness the transition of power from the 4th to the 5th administration. The committee, chaired by Head of Public Service Joseph Kinyua, has now incorporated Davis Chirchir, Justine Muturi, Gladys Boscholet and Veronica Minor in the team, overseeing preparations that will culminate in the swearing-in of Dr. William Ruto as president.
Tuesday, the 13th of September 2022, has been declared a public holiday across the Republic to allow Kenyans time to witness the swearing-in of President-elect Dr. William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua.
The date of the swearing-in will be a public holiday of general observance throughout the territory of the Republic of Kenya. The President-elect shall take the oath of office as administered by the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary before Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice.
The Presidential Assumption of Office Committee, under the stewardship of Joseph Kinyua, who is also the head of public service, confirming the inauguration ceremony will take place anytime between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
With the presidential election cycle now behind us, the swearing-in and the inauguration ceremony is an opportunity for the nation to not only witness and usher in our nation's fifth administration, but also to celebrate the strength and vibrancy of our constitutional and democratic processes. The peaceful and orderly transition in administrations is hallmark of our democracy and an essential testament of a nation's status as a beacon of stability, democracy, and the rule of law.
The Assumption of Office Committee now includes representatives of the President-elect, namely Davis Chirchir, outgoing Speaker of the National Assembly Justin Muturi, Uasin Gishu Woman Representative-elect Gladys Boss-Sholei, and United Democratic Alliance Secretary-General Veronica Maina.
As the leadership of our government transitions into the fifth administration, we are called upon to join hands and continue with the sacred work of building our nation, Kenya, a nation worthy of the sacrifices of our forefathers during the struggle for independence, and building the very best nation that we can bequeath to our future generations.
The roles of the Assumption to the Office of President Committee include facilitating the handing over process by the outgoing President to the President-elect, organize for the security of the President-elect, organize for the necessary facilities and personnel for the President-elect, coordinate the briefings by the President-elect by relevant public officers, facilitate communication between the outgoing President and the President-elect, prepare the program and organize for the swearing-in ceremony, and carry out any other activity necessary for the performance of its functions.
Now, this comes as military and other government officials continue conducting preparations for that swearing-in ceremony that is to take place next week on Tuesday between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Now, on the preparations of the swearing-in ceremony of President-elect William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua have begun at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani. Kenya Kwanza's representative in the Assumption of the Office President Committee, Gladys Boss-Sholei, says the exercise delayed owing to the wait on the Supreme Court verdict, but the committee has divided itself in various groups to ensure it beats the deadline to the Tuesday swearing-in event.
The Moi International Sports Center Kasarani will on Tuesday, September 13th, 2022, host the swearing-in ceremony for the fifth President of Kenya and his deputy. President-elect William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua will take oath of office from these grounds. The podium is already taking shape. Entertainment groups familiarizing with the stadia ahead of their planned presentations. Military drills too kicked off. A multi-sectoral team constituting the Assumption of Office Committee is overseeing preparations.
And we've split ourselves into various teams. There is a team from the public service that is going to brief the President-elect right about now. There is a team that is heading to State House to also look at the preparations for the luncheon and whatever banquet will be held. There is also the team that I'm with that we have come here to Kasarani just to check that the podium has been planned, both the podium for the VVIPs and also the podium for the inauguration podium. And I think the judiciary has a representative here, so everyone is on overdrive, and I think it's going to take working 24 hours a day for us to be able to complete everything, because everything should be in place by Saturday.
You shall be seeing a state event that carries all the tradition, the character, the flamboyance of a state event, but now nuanced with some little personality spicing, where you will see the signature of the President-elect, you shall see the signature of the Deputy President-elect in this event.
It is the third time the 60,000-seater stadium will be hosting the inauguration ceremony of our head of state. Outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto took oath of office from these same grounds in 2013 and 2017.
president-elect has categorically instructed us that we must be very mindful of the kind of budget that we run in doing this event. In as much as we want it to be beautiful and great, we also want to make sure that there's some austerity measures in the manner that we do it.
Preparations at the Kasarani Stadium ahead of the swearing-in ceremony of the President-elect William Ruto gives you a glimpse of how colorful the event would be. Kenyans who turn up here Tuesday will not only witness the swearing-in of the 5th President of Kenya, but also being part of history in the making.
And you can bet that KBC Channel 1 will be on hand to bring you that live broadcast. Now to the corridors of justice, the Supreme Court has struck out a petition that was challenging the swearing-in of President-elect William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua on integrity issues. The ruling by the 7-judge bench said the court lacks a jurisdiction to determine the case and the reasons for the petition were incompetent.
A legal barrier standing on the way of the swearing-in of President-elect William Ruto and his deputy on the 13th of September has been cleared after the Supreme Court threw out a petition seeking to block the two from taking oath of office on integrity issues. 11 activists had moved to the Supreme Court seeking to stop the deputy president-elect Rigathi Gachagua from taking office on integrity issues against him and the president-elect for nominating him. But the Supreme Court ruled that the petition was out of the court's jurisdiction as the notice of motion was filed on the 8th of August 2022, a day before the general elections and even days before the declaration of the results of presidential elections, contrary to the provisions of Article 140 of the Constitution, which requires a person to file a petition in the Supreme Court to challenge the election of the president-elect within 7 days after the date of the declaration of results of the presidential election. The court further stated that the reasons given in the notice of motion were incompetent.
Now, it's a sigh of relief for the family of Diana Chepkemoi, who arrived on Tuesday afternoon from Saudi Arabia. A story of the 24-year-old Diana went viral after her pictures were shared on social media showing her deteriorating state of health. Her repatriation was facilitated by the Kenyan government, and our reporter Trevor Ngendo reports.
Tuesday afternoon at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Tears of joy, ululations and songs. 24-year-old Diana Chepkemoi is finally reunited with her family.
Diana, welcome home. More power, Diana, long power. More power. Long live, Diana, long live. Long live.
Unable to hold back her tears, the Meru University student who deferred her studies and left for Saudi Arabia 15 months ago recounted how her hopes for a better life in the Gulf were shattered.
Mine is just to say, if I can just be honest, mine was just a tip of the iceberg. Watu wanateseka huko. People are suffering there. My friends are suffering there. It's just that mine, nilipata that voice, nilipata support venye niliongea. But people are suffering there, and I'm just pleading with the government, just please do something. People there are mentally tortured, psychologically tortured, and it's not fair. And it's a shame being told there's nothing you can do, there's nothing your government can do. I have power against your government. It's a shame. So I'm just pleading with the government, just please do something. Wasaidie, wanateseka, wanapitia mateso. Nile tu mimi nilipata sauti, nilipata support venye nilireach out. But kuna watu wako huko, mpaka hata mtu saizi ukimuuliza jina yake ajui.
Diana's story went viral after photos of her emaciated body were shared on social media. Photos that caused a public outcry and a massive condemnation by Kenyans on Twitter under the hashtag #BringBackDiana Chepkemoi. According to her mother, Diana's troubles began soon after she fell ill.
We have been communicating well, and she was doing well until up to about 3 months ago, when she said that she was not well, she was not happy, her health deteriorated, she was not happy at all.
Her condition continued to deteriorate after her employer denied her access to a medical facility, accusing her of being stubborn and a liar.
So she will not go until she take the punishment. She know about everything. The liar, she see my heaven. When I come, she will see my fire. Because she play a dirty game. Okay, good.
Claims that Chepkemoi dismissed.
I wasn't rude. I was doing my job. So the problem started where the first time I arrived in Saudi Arabia, I had an issue with her. I reported the issue to my agent. Instead of my agent chipping in and helping me, they just usually sweep to under the rug. So from there, Kajua, there's nothing I can do. She can do anything to me.
A section of newly elected legislators have pledged to push for laws that will protect Kenyans working in Saudi Arabia.
I want to encourage our children, our youth, not to go outside the country without reason, or even with reason. They should seek for better assistance from within.
Many of our Kenyans who've actually sought jobs in Saudi Arabia have faced almost similar problems. Many have been killed, many have been denied medical access, many have been denied food, many have gone through sexual harassment and other forms of human rights violations.
We will not entertain any more mistreatment of our people. You can see how this girl is, if you can see a servant, it is becoming, it is unbearable. We will not accept it. As members of parliament and the government, the new government in place, I think we are going to be very serious on this.
This may be just one of the numerous of such cases of Kenyans who end up getting stranded in the Gulf under the cruel hands of their employers. This coming at a time when Kenyans have raised an outcry to the new administration to make sure that they bring a permanent solution to this menace.
Now, she happens to be one of the lucky persons, or rather ladies, to have come back alive over the last few years. Families have been going to the airport not to receive their loved ones alive and warm, happy, but receiving them in caskets. This is a conversation that is very rife on our social media platforms, and even what was, the opposite twist is that when journalists were there ready to receive Diana, there was a bunch of ladies who were waiting to board the next flight out of the country to Saudi Arabia, seeking greener pastures. Something needs to be done in regard to how expatriates from Kenya, especially going to other countries, are treated there, especially if they are going to participate in national building there, providing services abroad. Now, the 4 dissenting commissioners of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission have come out to express their agreement with a statement that was made by the electoral body's chairperson, Wafula Chebukati, following the decision by the 7-judge bench to uphold President-elect William Ruto's win. In a statement, the 4 commissioners reiterated their stand for the rule of law and respect of the statutes that promote the commission's effectiveness.
Led by the IEBC Vice Chair Julian Cherero, Commissioners Justice Nyang'aya, Francis Wanderi and Irene Masit had previously distanced themselves from the presidential election results, accusing their chair Wafula Chebukati of handling the process in an opaque manner. The 4 were further enjoined in petitions at the Supreme Court seeking to nullify President William Ruto's win. And when the Supreme Court dismissed the petitions, Chebukati felt vindicated.
We look forward to the full judgment of the Supreme Court, as well as feedback from our stakeholders during the post-election evaluation exercises which will inform areas of improvement in the electoral process.
And today, the 4 commissioners signed a statement in support of Chebukati's remarks, saying the Supreme Court ruling is a testimony that the Commission held free, fair and credible elections. They added that the ruling confirmed their respect for the unanimous decision to uphold President-elect William Ruto's win. The commissioners further said they stand by the rule of law and statutes that promote the Commission's effectiveness. Nyang'aya, however, acknowledged signing the statement even though he was named as Julius instead of Justice, terming it as a spelling error.
Well, that particular outcome from the presidential petition somewhat exonerated the chairperson, Wafula Chebukati. But as we await the written judgment that is set to be out in the next 20 days or so, the recommendations that there were read by Chief Justice Martha Koome said that reforms are required within the electoral body. We're waiting to see what is going to happen, especially after today and tomorrow when members of parliament are going to be sworn in into parliament. Remember, when it comes to matters of IEBC, this is a matter of the legislature as well as the president. Now, religious leaders have urged leaders who have the opportunity to serve in the country's new government to endeavor to serve all Kenyans equally. While congratulating President-elect William Ruto, the religious leaders hailed Kenyans for observing peace during the electioneering period.
The religious leaders say Kenyans are optimistic that leaders elected in the incoming government will deliver on their promises.
We congratulate you on your confirmation as the president-elect. As the president, you'll be the symbol of national unity. We urge you to be a leader of all Kenyans.
We pray for the new president and his administration that the Almighty grants them wisdom, strength, and courage to discharge the role of their office and meet the expectations of Kenyans.
Having elected those who will be our leaders for the next 5 years, let us now focus on energies, on holding them to account so that they deliver justice and faithful implementation of the Constitution and the laws of Kenya.
We now urge you to take seriously the responsibility Kenyans have bestowed on you. Focus on wholesome development of the nation. In the meantime, we urge you to avoid abrasive or excessive celebrations, keeping in mind that there are many Kenyans who are wounded and aggrieved.
The interdenominational leaders hailing the outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta for his committed leadership to oversee a smooth transition.
You have led the nation over the last 10 years, during which Kenyans experienced peace and great leaps in development. We further appreciate your expressed commitment to a peaceful transition.
The leaders also expressed their gratitude to Kenyans for choosing to maintain peace during the electioneering period. At the same time, the clergy commended Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leaders for respecting the Supreme Court judgment despite not favoring their prayers.
A group of women under the Kenya Africa Women Leaders Network wants President-elect William Ruto to honor his promise to appoint 50% of women in his administration. Led by their chairperson, Jennifer Riria, the women have urged the president-elect to strive for unity for all Kenyans, regardless of their political affiliations.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
The women from different organizations under the umbrella of the African Women Leaders Network and the Women Mediation Network have committed to work with the new administration under President-elect William Ruto, noting that his win was for Kenyans.
We appreciate the call for reconciliation that you made to other 2022 presidential contenders and all Kenyans in general, irrespective of their political persuasions. Indeed, this is the only way to get the country back to track.
The women leaders calling on the president-elect to prioritize the women's agenda as he embarks on setting his 100 days agenda.
We urge the president-elect, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, to be the second president to be a male gender champion. And we know you will.
They lauded the president-elect for always championing the rights of girls, saying it was a clear testament on how he values women.
Now, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says he has no intention of working as a cabinet secretary after Uhuru Kenyatta's administration leaves office. Magoha, however, said that should the president-elect William Ruto see it fit to retain him in the docket, he is ready to be engaged.
Professor George Magoha is one of the cabinet secretary who has had such a busy schedule in the recent days. On Tuesday, the Education CS was inspecting construction of a competency-based curriculum classroom at Currency Girls Secondary School in Lang'ata, Nairobi, in a race to complete 10,000 classrooms before the transition of power.
After the new president is sworn in on the 13th, it will now depend on how quickly he forms his cabinet. Before that cabinet is formed, if there is 1% left, you can be very sure that yours sincerely will move around and complete it.
He, however, said he doesn't intend to hang on to the docket, but if offered the opportunity by the next regime, he would consider it.
If in his wisdom the president-elect thought that I could even be half worthy to be considered, we would have a conversation with him. We would have a conversation with him because I've now connected with the children, the poor children. And if we are thinking in the same direction and he gives me the support that I require, which would mean that I do things the way he wants and not any other person, then you may be, if it is God's will, I will say yes.
Magoha said the CBC classrooms construction project is at 96% completion countrywide, noting that the remaining 4% is expected to be complete by Monday, 12th September.
We want to leave a house that is clean for the incoming minister so that he doesn't have to start wondering what is this and that and so on. With regards to payment, we are continuing to pay. The money is there, but there are processes. That payment may spill into the next government, but if the building has been done and opened, then the person who has built it should be paid.
Nairobi, Mombasa, Kericho, Bomet, Trans Nzoia and Elgeyo Marakwet are among counties still lagging behind in completion rate to ensure smooth transition to junior secondary school next year.
Well, that particular statement by Professor George Magoha just embodies the term that I'm not looking for work, but if you have some, well, we can have a conversation. Now, also, as we say, it's a man's world, but women are actively participating in it. And to just quote what has been written about the new UK Prime Minister, and she said that together we can ride out the storm. Liz Truss is the new United Kingdom Prime Minister, and this is after being appointed by Queen Elizabeth II at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. Further details are available on our website. Now we delve into matters business, where the Kenya Ports Authority has commissioned Lamu Port's first 85-ton capacity tugboat with the intention of increasing the facility's cargo handling capacity. KPA Chairperson General Retired Joseph Kibwana says the authority is also looking into engaging the Democratic Republic of Congo into perking in at the Northern Transport Corridor and increasing cargo volumes at the Port of Mombasa and inland container depots in Nairobi and Naivasha.
Since its commissioning last year, Lamu Port, which is known for its deep bay and a wide navigable entrance channel, was expected to increase the volume of cargo handled as construction of supportive infrastructure was ongoing. This has, however, run into headwinds as activities such as pilotage and tugging had to be handled by vessels from the Port of Mombasa.
We are committed to equipping Lamu to make it full functional, and we are planning, and the board has already authorized the acquisition of additional equipment to make Lamu more efficient.
The Kenya Ports Authority says the 1.4 billion shilling tugboat would help the strategic port reach its full potential, since the tugboat can handle vessels efficiently and effectively.
This tugboat, that's MB pattern, is part of the Port of Lamu's marine vessels fleet, which will exclusively offer target services for vessels calling the Port of Lamu.
In addition, the port's management plans to acquire more equipment in phases to support the projected increased cargo volumes, including an additional 3 mobile harbour cranes, shore gantry cranes, and terminal tractors.
With that type of equipment, Lamu now will be able to perform its role as a transshipment port and also as a hub for transshipment business in this country.
The tugboat was built by a Turkish company, Med Marine, in collaboration with the Kenya Shipyard Limited at a cost of 1.4 billion shillings.
Now, also 12 Kenyan startups are among 60 that are set to benefit from a 479.2 million shillings funding and support from Google to scale up their operations. Details are on our website. Now we head into the sporting arena where after 12 meetings from May to September, the Wonder Diamond League season reaches its climax at the World Cask Zurich in Switzerland on Wednesday and Thursday. All the 32 champions will be crowned during the 2-day event where diamond trophies, top prizes and wildcard entries to the World Athletics Championship in Budapest, Hungary next year are all up for grabs.
The first 6 winners will be determined on Wednesday, where reigning 5,000 meters Commonwealth Games champions Beatrice Tibet will take to the field alongside world 10,000 meters bronze medalist Margaret Chelimo. However, the Kenyan duo will face stiff opposition from Ethiopia's Gudaft Segei, Helgayeu Tawe, Fantu Worko and Hawi Faisa alongside Burundi's Francine Niosaba. Jacob Krop, Nicholas Kimeli and Cornelius Komboi will line up the men's 5,000 meters that will also see Ethiopians Beriu Arigawi, Selemon Barenga, Abeba Arigawi and Yomif Kejelcha. On Thursday, Mary Mora will line up in the women's 800 meters, while Olympics champions Emmanuel Coril and Wycliffe Kinyamal will take to the field in the men's 800 meters. World 1,500 meters champion Faith Kipyegon will line up in the women's race, while Timothy Cheruyot and Abel Kipsang are athletes who will line up in the men's race. Abraham Kibiwot, Wilberforce Cornes, Lawrence Kemboi and Amos Rem, and Leonard Bett are all eyeing the 3,000 meter steeplechase title, but will face steep competition from world and Olympic champion Sofian El Bakali.
Now, before we bring this to our close, and as far as in the headlines is concerned, just we want to look at what has been happening in the Europa League as well as the Champions League. So tomorrow in the Europa League, we'll have Manchester United at 10 p.m. taking on Real Sociedad there at around 10 p.m. as also in Arsenal is going to be playing FC Zurich at 7:45 p.m. Other matches are still slated on. You can get further details on our website. Now let's look at what is going to be happening tomorrow before we look at the results of yesterday's Champions League. So tomorrow at the Champions League, we are expecting to see Ajax taking on Rangers at 7:45 p.m. Napoli squaring it out with Liverpool at 10 p.m. in Group A. Group B, Atletico Madrid is going to be squaring it out with FC Porto. Club Bruges and Leverkusen are going to be meeting up at 10 p.m. under Group B. Under Group C, we have Barcelona at 10 p.m. taking on Victoria Pilsen, and Inter is going to be meeting up with Bayern Munich at 10 p.m. Group D, we have Frankfurt taking on Sporting CP at 7:45, while Tottenham is going to be taking on Marseille at 10 p.m. That is Group A, B, C, D in as far as Champions League matches set for today. Actually, not tomorrow, for today. Those are the matches you need to be looking out for. Now, let's just sample what happened yesterday in as far as the Champions League is concerned. And well, Chelsea fans are not too happy, and this is after they lost 0-1 while Dynamo took the lead there in that particular game. Yesterday, Salzburg, on the other hand, ended in a 1-1 draw with Milan. Celtic, Real Madrid. Real carried the day, scoring 3 against Nil. Celtic there. RB Leipzig, we had scored 1 against, while Shakhtar Donetsk carried the day, scoring 4. Now Dortmund and Sevilla. Dortmund won. Sevilla lost to Man City after Man City scored 4 goals there. Benfica there won against Maccabi Haifa. PSG there and Juventus. That was a match indeed to behold, and PSG carried the day after scoring 2 goals against Juventus, single goal. Further details are available on our website, just to remind you, and you can also get us on Twitter and give us feedback in regard to the stories that we have highlighted for you. So we're going to be focusing on the induction that is going to be taking place in at the Parliament buildings today ahead of tomorrow's ceremony there, and we're expecting a showdown, so to speak, between Ruto and Raila in the choice of speaker. We take a quick breather. We'll be back with what has been captured in the various dailies.
It was during my days at Skywall. I was a fool.
Have you forgotten you're marrying Suzanne today?
I did. Completely.
Forget it. But I'm still not going to speak with him. Send him away.
My lady, he didn't come here to see you, but Ferna.
In this world, no other woman will love you more than I do.
Life cannot always be too serious.
Yeah, man, what's up, yeah?
Allah? We've got to take some time off and laugh, and laugh. And we tickle you down with lots of laughter.
That's why I'm saying I'm who is who. Huh?
With satire like no other.
Tell him to bring it on.
Dakachapa.
What's wrong with it? Everyone at the hotel already knows that we're a couple.
Because the hotel is our place of work.
You were the brat that bullied me in school when my parents were killed.
I'm so sorry, but I really don't remember.
But I remember it all.
Fortunately, it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's too painful for her and for all of us here as well.
If I don't see you back at work first thing tomorrow, you can go find another job. But Mrs. Lee here, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
Welcome back. Now let's take a look at what we have on our local dailies on the front page of the Star newspaper. Ruto sends 100 to oversee transition. Ruto sends 100 to oversee transition. President-elect wants blend of religious, state and military fit. Kinyua to lead main team together with Justin Muturi, Davis Chirchir and Ababu Namwamba. That is what's on the front page of the Star. Kalonzo, Wetangula, Marende, front runners in race for speaker. That is slated for tomorrow. Out of ammo, why Raila may not hang up his boots just yet. Azimio chief Raila Odinga, who is now 77 years old, lost to President-elect William Ruto in his 5th stab that many believe end his political career. But the former Prime Minister, who has been described as an enigma of Kenyan politics, may not retire from active politics just yet. While it may not be clear if he will make the 6th attempt at the country's top seat in the 2027 general election, Raila has hinted at not hanging up his political boots anytime soon. You can also take a look at that story. It's fleshed out there for you on page 8. I'm not looking for a job in Ruto cabinet, says Magoha. Says that he's okay, but people, the CS said that his continued commitment to supervise CBC classroom across the country should not be construed to mean he's angling for the reinstatement of to retain his docket under the Kenya Kwanza administration. And he said anyone can take that to the bank. All right. Rebel, quoted quote, rebel IEBC officials hint at staying put. Supreme Court ruled that the 4 failed to prove case against their boss. In a joint statement, the 4 commissioners also said that they appreciate and respect the decision by the Supreme Court to uphold Ruto's victory. And now, excuse me, they said that that is a day after the Supreme Court upheld the 9th presidential election. The 4 said that they now agree with Chebukati. Interesting turn of events. Ruto win complicates Azimio bid for majority. Kenya Kwanza has fronted Senator Moses Wetangula as for the top seat, that is Speaker. And now, as of Tuesday evening, 7 applicants had picked their nomination papers and are expected to return them by Wednesday. That is this morning, which is the deadline. Given politicians' self-interest, it is believed more MPs are likely to cross the floor to Ruto's side and deny the Raila team the much needed majority. So this is it. Azimio affiliate parties won 165 seats of the 290 constituencies, whereas Ruto's Kenya Kwanza has 160. Legally, this makes the Raila-led coalition party the majority in the House. Now, more than 8 Azimio-affiliated lawmakers, however, have declared their support for the president-elect. Ruto also enjoys the support of 10 out of 12 independent candidates, independent MPs, and will have 5 members nominated by his UDA party. All right. Kenyan vanishes in US after meeting boyfriend online. This is a story which was actually run by CNN, an international media house, and it said that the lady called Gakwa, 32 years old, is the only daughter and the youngest child in a family of 3 children. Gakwa, who at the time of her disappearance in February had been in the US for less than 3 years, was living with her boyfriend at Gillette, Wyoming, without her parents' knowledge. And her father now says that in a recent phone interview with the international media house, that his daughter was supposed to come home for Christmas, but it's now 6 months since they heard from her. So it's also said that the lady's eldest brother noted that she was no longer using a mix of English and Sheng, but rather a natural English like in someone, like as if someone was using Google Translate to send them. So this is a situation. They met at a dating site a platform called Craigslist. Now, Craigslist is an American classified advertisement website with sections devoted to jobs, housing, sales, community service, gigs, and discussion forums. And now, the boyfriend, who called Heitman, is now considered a person of interest in her disappearance. He was arrested in May after he allegedly depleted Gakwa's credit card, changed her banking password, and deleted her email after her disappearance. So since then, she's never been heard of. Ruto sends 100 people to oversee the transition. Very quickly, the National Security Team also began briefing the president-elect yesterday as required by law. And a select team from the military will also go to Karen to do a simulation of the swearing in. Then, yesterday, Ruto made his recommendations on the presidential standard, quote-unquote, the flag, that he will use. His transition team is designing an elaborate inauguration, blending worship, state, and military protocols, and increasing his representation on the committee. Ruto's team also Ruto's team puts family in charge of Tuesday's swearing in. So it's an interesting moment ahead. And it's a full military honors, pomp and color for Ruto at Kasarani swearing in. Now, very quickly, the event of the day, which include Ruto being accorded full military honors and a sword and the Constitution, will culminate in him occupying State House as the new tenant. And immediately after the swearing in, the national anthem will be played as the presidential standard of Kenyatta is lowered, marking end of his term, while that of Ruto, who succeeds him, is hoisted. The presidential standard is a flag that is used in many countries as a symbol of the head of state. In Kenya, it is designed in consultation by this president-elect and symbolizes power and represents the commander-in-chief. So much about this. You can also take a look at that. Over 20 people apply for National Assembly Speaker, 15 for Senate. Of course, we have got Moses Tangula, Kalonzo Musyoka over there. And finally, why Raila may not exit political scene just yet despite fifth loss. Analysts say that Odinga will be too old to mount serious campaigns in future elections. How will that be 5 years from now? Only God knows. That's as far as the Star is concerned. That's a sneak peek. Jen.
Let's now quickly run through the Daily Nation. The front page is just some of the promises that were made during the campaigning period, and now it is a scramble for the hustler cake, as they caption it here. So politics in Western Rift and the Mountain Bagain. For key cabinet position, the hustle has started, and so many of these people are now eyeing some seats that they were promised prior to pledging their support and allegiance to the Kenya Kwanza leader, President-elect Dr. William Ruto. So now they go on to say that he is spoiled for choice as William Ruto embarks on the tumultuous journey of crafting a government that not only has the capacity to push his agenda, but also fulfill the promises that he made to the politicians who backed his campaign and were clever enough to ensure that promises were made during this particular time. So this story has been covered here on page 2 through to page through to page 5 of this particular daily, and they go on to mention so many people that were promised so many positions in government, but I'll just mention a few, starting with ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi. He said he was promised the prime cabinet secretary position in the government of President-elect William Ruto, and to deputize him, Dr. Alfred Mutua actually on the 15th of May said that he was promised the deputy slot under Mudavadi, where he would be mostly focusing on the infrastructural development of the country under the government of William Ruto. Others that were promised different positions in the Ruto government include Wetangula, who was promised the National Assembly Speaker, but as it stands, we know there's so many, but as of yesterday 3 p.m., let me get that particular figure, as of yesterday 3 p.m., where is that? Yes, at least 15 people had picked nomination papers for the Senate Speaker. This is by 3 p.m. yesterday. So for Senate, at least 15 people had picked the nomination papers, but when it comes to the National Assembly, Kenya Kwanza has 2 candidates vying for this Senate Speaker, and Azimio has also 2 that are eyeing the National Assembly seat. So that is in regards to some of the positions that were promised. But also remember, he had promised 50% of his cabinet would be reserved for women, and so far there are a number of women who are their eyes already out on the president-elect for the fulfillment of his promise on this particular seat. Elsewhere, that is majorly the story that has been covered here on the front page of the Daily Nation. The other stories in regards to Diana Chepkemoi, the young girl that was stuck in Saudi Arabia, her arrival into the country yesterday, a move that has started quite the conversation on social media. We have been hearing so many cases of this nature of young girls going abroad seeking employment, and for some of them it's never a good experience, but this is just one case where this young lady has actually been rescued and brought back to the country. That story has been captured here, and she continued to say that so many other girls are stuck there, and they told her to speak on their behalf and ask for help in order to bring them back home. So that story has also been captured here on this particular daily. On the back page of the Daily Nation, breakaway officials back Chebukati's statement in regards to IEBC having conducted a free, fair and transparent elections, the just concluded general elections. But in regards to the breakaway, quote-unquote, breakaway commissioners, Chebukati did not say much except, quote, he said that the commission has not chased anyone away. So whether they are still part of the commission or not, that is not something that Chebukati spoke to while giving his statement yesterday. So that is basically what the front page has for you this morning. But before I quickly hand you over to Doreen, one interesting piece here, as the Supreme Court has struck out a petition from 11 activists that were challenging the suitability of President-elect Dr. William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua to hold public office over alleged integrity issues. So the court has found that it has no authority to address these issues that were raised by these activists, and consequently struck off the entire matter. So that is that in regards to the Daily Nation. Doreen.
Very quickly on what the PD is holding for you this Wednesday morning, starting off with matters to do with food security, where parents in Isiolo County are now complaining of the issues prevailing in that particular county in respect to the students being sent at home because of not paying fees that is allied to what is normally used in terms of to cater for their meals and their food. And remember that this has also been occasioned by the 4 years of sort of below average rainfall, not just in Kenya, but this is largely in the whole of Africa, talking about Kenya, Ethiopia, as well as Somalia. We have also seen international bodies just coming in to see how best they can salvage the situation in the country. Also, the state has equally tried to just see how they can bridge that, and this has been done oftentimes, at least since the beginning of this year, by cash transfers and food reliefs in most of these affected areas. And also just much of what we've talked about as of tomorrow, that is the battle moving to Parliament in respect to who will be the next speaker, and just going by what the PD has captured, in fact, this is the main read on the People Daily this morning, is that will it be Wetangula or Kalonzo? And this is after that gazettement by the president immediately after the Supreme Court's verdict, whereby, tomorrow there'll just basically be three businesses in the House. That would be the swearing in of those legislators, election of the speakers, as well as the election of deputy speaker. Now, you might clearly just be wondering, why is this a contentious position? And this is because it is the third most powerful position in the executive after the president and the deputy president, and then the speaker of the National Assembly. Also key to note is that the 2/3 majority threshold will also be looked out in respect to this election process, because, for example, the National Assembly, which has 349 members, inclusive of elected members, 290, 47 women representatives, and the 12 nominated, for example, that particular area, when we talk about 2/3, is just basically 233 members voting for whoever will be elected as speaker. And, that is also part of what will be looked at tomorrow. Again, those names have also been put forth in respect to how both camps have floated who will be contesting for those speaker position in both houses. Again, also the clergy now urging Ruto to pursue national unity, and also part of what is coming out in this particular article is the clergy also lauding Kenyans in respect to how they behaved themselves in this elections, ensuring that they kept peace and demonstrated maturity in this election. And now they've just moved to the president-elect, saying that now it is his role to ensure that there's national unity in the country. And lastly, new governors to smoke out ghost workers. So far, we've just been treated to this in some of those counties, key among them being Kisii County, where we've seen Governor Simba Arati, who just, I think just a few days back, where he said that there was a number of ghost workers in that particular county, and he had actually said even for those that are drivers, whereby in the county there's a total of about, 86 or slightly above that vehicles, yet there was 130 or slightly above that worker. So he had said that each and every worker to stand in front of the vehicle they drive. And also this is what we are being treated in various other counties, where these county governors are just, in a bid to ensure that they weed out ghost workers, so to speak. You can say that now we are being treated to county government that is trying to ensure that, whoever is paid is being paid exactly for whatever job they do. Regina.
Now being the 7th of September there, in the next 48 hours, we are likely to be treated to what is termed as a first battle between Ruto and Raila. And we're talking about the House Speaker's race, so to speak. Some that have some key figures in as far as the National Assembly Speaker and Deputy Speaker race figures are concerned include Moses Wetangula, who has been floated for the position of National Assembly by Kenya Kwanza. Just a brief is that Wetangula is a politician and a lawyer and a third-term Bungoma senator. He graduated with a Bachelor of Law degree from the University of Nairobi. Ford Kenya party leader and part of Kenya Kwanza team key figures, and he served as a magistrate. As well as represented soldiers linked to the 1982 coup during his private legal practice. He served under as minister under the Kibaki government, deeds to the Raila Odinga camp to align himself with the political formations of Kenya Kwanza in 2022. We have Kalonzo Musyoka, who is also a lawyer and politician, served as Vice President of Kenya in Moi and Kibaki's regime, holds a Bachelor of Law from the University of Nairobi, as well as a postgraduate diploma in business management there. He's the party leader, Wiper Democratic Movement. Then he has held various positions in government, including the Ministry of Home Affairs, Environment, Natural Resources, Foreign Affairs, Education and Human Resource. Served as a special envoy to South Sudan, and he shelved his 2022 presidential bid to support Raila Odinga's presidency. The third in this particular race, National Assembly Speaker / Deputy Speaker, is none other than Gladys Bose-Sholei, who is also leading the transition team for President-elect William Ruto there. She's a politician and a lawyer. Wasin Gishu woman representative, holds a Master of Business Administration from JKUAT, holds a Masters of Law from the University of Cape Town, South Africa, holds a Bachelor of Laws, University of Nairobi, and a former Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, served as the Deputy Elections Officer in the IEBC, a CEO of the National Council Law Reporting for 9 years. So those are the three names so far for the National Assembly and the Deputy Speaker race figures. Kenya Kwanza there has fronted Wetangula, while Azimio is pushing for an election of Kalonzo for the position of National Assembly Speaker there. Then when you look at the Senate, briefly, we have a Deputy Speaker and Speaker for the Senate. We have Kenneth Marende, Amason Kingi there. We have Hassan Omar there, as well as Stuart Madzayo. Now we're going to be waiting to see which way the axe falls, so to speak, given that numbers are really going to play a key role in regard to who is going to clinch those coveted positions. And an interesting read as we close here. In every election, there are winners and losers, and we have those who suffer critical blows, especially if they lose. In this particular article that has been captured by this particular daily, it has gone further to just elaborate. And it goes with this kicker: Raila's orphans stare at life in political cold. Just to mention but a few, we have Peter Munya, who served as the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Agriculture. We have Jeremiah Kioni there, Amos Kemunya, Lee Kinyanjui, who lost his bid there for governorship in Nakuru County. So if you want further details in regard to exactly what the outcome of the election has been to some political bigwigs, well, you can get a copy. I'm Regina Manyara, and we bring this to a close. Just leave you with a conversation that is going to be carried on by my colleague. Have a pleasant viewing ahead.
Good boys gone bad. Eric Omondi has evolved from being a comedian to now being the king clout chaser.
How does a gospel artist make money? Jaguar, where? Again.
As a celeb, as a followers, but it's a time for artists to make bank.
Yes. How is your relationship with Zari, considering that she dates young?
These are accessories.
They do not make... Slap the guy.
Yo, what's up? My name is Ted Josiah.
Oh, mashallah.
You sing about serious issues, it will not trend. If you sing about Abiambosi.
No.
Bahati hata kuwa na machozi. Willy Paul ndio alikuwa anatoa machozi.
For your beat these boys with stones, let's all be logic. Yesu ashukangi chini analeta pesa.
Musicians are missing the point.
Do we sip water?
You are watching Pop Culture with Adhiambo with a Y.
What's wrong with it? Everyone at the hotel already knows that we're a couple.
Because the hotel is our place of work.
You were the brat that bullied me in school when my parents were killed.
I'm so sorry, but I really don't remember.
But I remember it all.
Fortunately, it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's too painful for her and for all of us here as well.
If I don't see you back at work first thing tomorrow, you can go find another job. But Mrs. Lee here, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
Bringing the clock and the gun to come and shove the youth them hard. Later and red. When you all a look down on a tea bread. I hear a next you dead. Whoa. Chatty, Mount Damasi. Mix up. Why you no leave people business? I said, don't
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We appreciate your valued company. But in case you are just joining us, karibu tena sana. This is Good Morning Kenya. My name is Jane Wambui-Kibera. We'd absolutely love to know where you're watching us from this morning. So feel free to interact with us via our various communication platforms. On Twitter, we are using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. My handle is at Jane Wambui. And should you be leaving the comfort of your home, you can always stream us live. We are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube, and also our website is up and running. That is www.kbc.co.ke. We welcome you to be part of this conversation. So today on Viewpoint, we want to focus on a conversation that most of us tend to have when you get to that stage in your life where you want to set up a home. Maybe you've retired or you want to just put up a home somewhere. That's when you start thinking about these engineers. But at what point should we start having conversations around the engineering profession in our country? Do you even know we have an engineering board here in our country? Well, worry not, we are here to inform you all that you need to know when it comes to the engineering profession in our country. And with us in studio to help with this conversation, to my extreme left, we have engineer Margaret Ogai. She is the CEO and registrar at the Engineers Board of Kenya. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you so much, Jane. I'm happy to be here.
Karibu sana. And to my immediate left, we have engineer Dr. Johnson Matu, who is a board member at the Engineers Board of Kenya, as well as the chairman of Registration and Professional Development and Compliance Committee at the Engineers Board of Kenya. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning and thank you.
Karibu sana. So again, if you have any questions or comments, or if you're just seeking clarification, we absolutely welcome them. We will be addressing them as and when they come in. So let me start with you, Margaret. When you talk about engineering as a profession, for most of us, we all had it from our younger days. When I grow up, I want to become an engineer, I want to become a doctor. It is one of those professions that were highly valued. But let's start with engineering in itself. Loosely, just defining this term for our viewers. When we talk about engineering, what exactly are we referring to?
Thank you very much. I would like to say that when we talk about engineering, as you say, it's very broad.
Yes.
And we are looking at a scientist who applies that knowledge of science to develop everyday facilities and structures. So buildings, to keep them safe, they need to be designed by engineers, and those we call structural engineers. All this equipment we have today here, again, telecommunications is done through engineering. How do you transmit and all that? Electrical, I think the electrical wiring that is done over here, there's somebody who has to do the design, the planning and the design, and also check on the construction supervision of that particular facility. So engineering to me is very broad. It's in our everyday life. Actually, modern life is driven by engineering and also innovation.
Yes.
I think I've captured it. Water supply, we have to design right from the source all the way the pipes that bring the water to your homes. And which other area? I think I've brought out quite a number. I think you can also assist me. But broadly, I would say that is what engineering is.
All right. And as we proceed on with this conversation, we actually get to understand the different categories of engineering that there are, different professional categories of engineering that there are in the country. But let's first even just come to the Engineers Board of Kenya. Again to you, Margaret, when we look at this board in itself, what is it?
Oh, thank you. The board of the Engineers Board of Kenya is established by an Act of Parliament. It's called the Engineers Act of 2011. And our mandate is to regulate the engineering practice. And it's much broader than just the engineers. So we start with registration of engineers, because you need to have an engineer who we can certify, meets a certain standard, and is able to do the work as required.
Yes.
We also then look at regulating the services, which means we can actually go into a site and see if work are being done properly, if the engineers employed meet the qualifications, and generally what is happening. We also do capacity development. And in this, we are looking at even the engineering education that is being taught at the universities, that it meets the standard. And we also carry out a CPD program. So the same engineers are supposed to continuously improve their knowledge and their capacity. So we run a number of capacity development programs.
Okay.
I think broadly, then we set standards. And some of the standards would include, I think recently we now have an engineer scale of fees. We have had things like if you want your drawings, we know engineers work with drawings. Most of our language, the other language we use is drawings.
Yes.
And they need to be stamped so that you're sure that this is an engineer. Actually, to register a project, to carry out a project on the National Construction Authority portal, you must be a registered engineer in our role.
Okay.
And I think I've covered most of our mandates.
All right.
Yes.
And as you also add to that, Dr. Matu, looking at the fact that you're also the chair of the Registration of Professional Development and Compliance Committee, you could tell us a bit about what this committee is in line with being under the EBK.
Thank you very much, Jane. That committee deals with registration of engineers. And the engineers are in several different categories. We have those who have graduated from the university, and they are registered immediately they come from the university.
Yes.
And after attaining an experience of about 3 years, minimum 3 years, they are now ready to apply for registration as a professional engineer. And that is where now we look at their experience and see their capability, and then we issue them with a practicing license. Thereafter, after some years of experience, they can also be registered as consulting engineers after having gone maybe through some maybe less than about 5 years or so
of experience in the actual field.
In actual field.
Yeah.
And having shown that they are actually capable of handling those projects properly, they can now be registered as consulting engineers.
And in terms of actually being in school where you're undergoing the training, how long does that take?
In school, the programs that are there are 5-year programs. There are some universities who are going for 4 years, like let's say Technical University of Kenya, where they take them through 4 years, and when they come out as technologists, which is at another different level.
Yes.
But for a graduate engineer who is recognized by the board, he needs to go for a program of at least 5 years.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, let me come to you, Engineer Margaret. You had mentioned the different categories of engineering that are in the Kenyan space, because again, we are narrowing down to the Kenyan space. But for the benefit of our viewers, maybe you could give us a brief description of what these categories could be, and maybe we could start off with civil engineers. What is their field of expertise?
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, indeed, we have we register categories of engineers, and we call that disciplines.
Okay.
I think there are sub-disciplines within the term engineers. So for civil engineers, this person studies, or rather practices, and they can provide services in the water supply regime. They also work in structural engineers. That means if you're building your building, just to make sure that it is safe, they're the ones who will do the designs and generally supervise if it is the amount of tumor that you have in your building, the reinforcement, generally how thick the columns would have to be, and things like that. So that just to make sure the building is safe for use. Then we also have the highways engineers. And these are the ones who are involved in building our roads to make sure again that they are safe and they meet standards and that they are economical for use.
Are they under the discipline of still civil engineering?
That is the realm of civil engineering.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And so you have mentioned that they also can be involved in the construction of buildings and other structures. So is there a difference between structural engineers, or they also fall under this category of civil engineering?
Okay. I think when we go to the university, the training that we get is very broad-based.
Okay.
So a civil engineer will have all these 3 fields. They will do them and they'll specialize as they get out. And when you also start practicing, you will move into any of these fields.
Okay.
And that's where you'll get your expertise and continue. And when you come to us for registration, you come with a project that meets our standard, that indeed you have the rigor and understanding of the field for you to be registered. So you will select one of the three.
Okay.
Those are the three categories that we have in under civil engineering discipline today. But engineering is of course also dynamic and responsive. But we have also had now many other branches outside of the civil engineering. And I think that's where we have electrical engineers who we work with, of course. There are those, I think they have, we have mechanical engineers. They work in manufacturing. They also work in building services, because there's also a lot of mechanical, what you call, facilities that you require even within a building.
Yes.
If it's air conditioning, if it is your, and that kind of thing. So we have quite a number, and I think telecommunications is a bit new. It is coming under the stream of electrical engineering, and broadly we are starting to move. We've had very few medical, biomedical engineers, but we are glad. I think there's some universities that have started teaching that, and it's an important field. I think previously we've been having that as a technologist, technician level, but now we're starting to train biomedical engineers who then can design for you and maintain and the equipment that you need in the hospitals. So it's a broad field that we're moving into.
Clearly, as we are seeing, just from this far we've got into this conversation. But now let me come to you, Dr. Matu. When it comes to the whole registration of these engineers, it is also a responsibility that falls on the board. What does this process look like from the registration up to a point where an engineer is certified and they actually have the certificate to prove that they have been registered?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I want to first of all ask you something. I want to send a congratulation message, because we cannot fail to understand the environment that we are in.
Yes.
That we want, on behalf of ABK and the chairman and the board itself and the management of the Engineers Board of Kenya, to congratulate His Excellency Honorable Dr. William Ruto.
Oh, yes.
As the President-elect, and also Deputy President Honorable Rigathi Gachagua for having been elected as President and Deputy President. And also to just say that we are praying for them, that they'll be able to lead this country to greater heights.
Yes.
Economically and otherwise, and to tell them that we at the Engineers Board of Kenya are available, are ready to work with them, and we have a pool of very many engineers who can help them in ensuring that the agenda that they have for the country is fulfilled.
Absolutely.
We have engineers, as my colleagues have said, who are in the manufacturing sector, who also are even in ICT, those who are also in housing, others are infrastructure development itself, and a lot of them in manufacturing, in agriculture, production of goods, and therefore we are saying that we are ready. And we have a pool of engineers who are very experienced in the first place. Actually, we have about 4,000, going to 4,500 of registered professional engineers in the country. We also have registered with us about 20,000 graduate engineers who are working in various fields, and some of them are not properly employed. And we have even many other consulting engineering firms that are with us, and therefore we have adequate capacity at the moment to be able to handle projects which are going to be implemented by the government. We understand that the bottom-up approach of things, and we are saying that we need to focus our energies at the county levels, maybe even sub-county, and we would like to send engineers out there so that they can take care of the business of engineering because we have had many instances of building collapsing, and we need to ensure that the public is actually safe.
Yes.
And therefore, the whole idea of the government that's coming in to focus at the bottom, we are very ready for it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, and I'm sorry for not.
It is absolutely welcome. And you've actually mentioned something important, that you have about 4,000, going to 4,500 registered engineers in the Kenyan space.
Yes.
So the process of registering them and certifying them, tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. The process is, I had mentioned, it's when an engineer comes from the university, he undergoes a training. You know, we call it an internship program. And after 3 years of having been trained, then he is in a position to apply for professional registration. And we look at what he has done and see whether he has adequate competencies to be able now to carry out a project on his own without supervision, and ensuring that whatever he's going to design is actually safe, it is efficient, and he can be able to deliver a project to clients, ensuring that the value for money is looked at very, very carefully.
Okay.
And when we determine that, then we are able now to register him as a professional engineer.
And what period is set for this particular time?
Okay, so the minimum requirement is that he should undergo a 3-year experience, you know, out there in projects.
Okay.
Minimum. But obviously, it takes a long while because sometimes it's difficult to get projects that are going to help in that space, and therefore it could take 3 years, 4, 5 years or so. But if you are lucky as a graduate engineer from university, you come into a project where you undergo design, you undergo construction, supervision of projects, and you are also able to do project management, then you are in a position to get there.
Okay.
And there, we also encourage them to look for opportunities where that experience can be gained. Once they do gain that experience and they come to us, we only look at the competencies that they have gained. In these
areas,
yeah, we take them through an interview. Yeah, we examine them properly and know that they are capable of actually designing and also supervising a project on behalf of the users.
All right.
Yes.
So after the 4 or 5 years of training in an institution,
yes,
you also need to have field training of not less than 3 years.
Yes, not less than
before
3
you
years.
get registered.
Yes.
All right. Now, when it comes to looking at one of the responsibilities of the board is also regulating the standards of individuals and firms in the engineering space in Kenya. So when it comes to this regulating, what aspects do you look out for in a professional or a firm to certify that this person or this entity are actually abiding by the rules and regulations that we have set out?
Well, thank you. I think there are many, many different ways of doing this regulation.
Yeah.
And we'll start with when things go wrong. Members of the public and any other institutions. We work also with National Construction Authority.
And when they go wrong, we always most likely tend to hear about a building has collapsed somewhere.
Exactly.
14 stories
we have
high.
Disciplinary processes.
Yes.
And for our engineers who are registered with us.
Okay.
Our engineers who are registered with us, if we do find indeed they did not follow the standards, because now the standards are also very, very many. There are many practice notes. For instance, if it is in the building space, there's a certain way you'd have had to do the design. There's certain assumptions that you make. We have, like if it is on, let's say, the wind loading, the earthquakes, we design for all of that to make sure the building is safe. So we look and we see, did you also go to the site and do supervision as was required? At a very critical stage, did you do geotechnical investigations to make sure that the soils that you had designed for are indeed the soils that were found as you started putting up your structure? Because now we are looking. So that's one. We will check and we'll have a team. We will actually first write to you and ask you to tell us your role in the project. Then the board will set up a committee to actually go into what did you do in that project and what could have gone wrong. So that is one side. On the worst side, which we don't want to be going, there is the side of things have gone wrong, and we must find. Public, we encourage the members of public, please write to us, reach out to us, should you be concerned. Because, you know, today we've seen like the building on the one of Kino. It leaned on another building. Literally. So you know you can't say that's another person's business.
Yes.
It will come and it will impact on you. So indeed, if you have any concerns about how they are building these the buildings in our neighborhoods, it is important for us to engage local administration, the National Construction Authority, and also write to the board. As you said, we have this, we also have a board which gives out details of who is building a particular site.
And is this a requirement for every construction
site? Because one, it shows the approvals that you have received from the county government and authorizations for you to put up that development. And so it's very important that we have that board, and when you see that there's a site where there's no board, it is important to bring it out. There they write the name of the engineer. Again, we have on our site the engineers who are registered by the board, and you can easily go and check and confirm that this name that is given there indeed is a registered engineer or a registered consulting engineering firm. So that is one. Again, on standards, we also, as we start on the positive side. You must come and get registered by the board before you start working.
Yes.
So we do have, unfortunately, some people who are offering services which they do not have competencies for. And when such cases happen, unfortunately, those we have to refer to the DCI and investigations are carried out. Because as per our Act, you're only limited to work with engineers on engineering function, which means if it is design, if it is construction supervision, it must be done by somebody who has been duly certified. So unfortunately, and I think it comes to the pressure of lack of employment, lack of awareness by developers, sometimes they engage people who are not qualified in certain tasks. So
now,
we are
looking at that aspect of maybe engaging professionals that are not registered, there comes in the question of those that have just finished their studies in school and they're out in the field. Are they required to work under a registered engineer, or how does that? How do they now fit into the actual field to get this training that they're required for at least 3 years?
Thank you. Indeed, I think you've answered it. Once you leave the university and you want to, you need to work under a professional engineer who will give you guidance and will give you the necessary exposure for you to gain that confidence and competencies in an area. Then you come for registration. Minimum period is 3 years. And but I also want to say at this point, as the Engineers Board of Kenya, we have found, like he said, we have 20,000 engineers on graduate engineers on our roll. And we want to clear and have at least 10,000 professional engineers. That is what we need in our economy. They say for everyone, we need for every a population of 10,000, you need one professional engineer to be able to give you all the services that we need. So currently we have a deficit as a country. We are trying to address it in many ways. We have a graduate engineers internship program, which is funded by government. Unfortunately, because of the funding levels we receive, we are only able to absorb a cohort of 100 each year. Currently, we have about 200 engineers who we are training through that process. But we are gradually hoping to, we are also now starting to collaborate with different industries so that we can also, the engineers that are already employed in those industries, go through a structured training to come out and to become professional engineers. So I think that the first thing, of course, like I say, if it is about compliance, we need to make sure that the people who are indeed registered have the competencies to deliver safe work. And so that we are asking members of the public, please go to our website. You're able to see the register, and if Engineer Dr. Matu introduces himself, you're able to see that actually he's on our register. before you even start engaging and giving him tasks that he's not capable of. It also comes down to employers.
Yes.
Even when we would want that, and I've seen, and I would like to really commend county governments are now starting to do the recruitment of their CECMs and their chief officers, and indeed we have seen they are saying you must be a member of a professional body. So we are looking at engineering functions. If you want to be the head of roads, we are asking that they should have professional engineers. Then he's able to oversee that whole function in a proper way. Again, you can imagine all these people, we are receiving approvals for the approval process. On the other side, you have to have a counterpart in the public space who is receiving this and saying this actually meets the standard, the calculations were done correctly, and this engineer is indeed registered. So we also, when we did a study, I think recently in March of this year, and we are just about to release the report, we actually found there's a dire need to increase the technical capacity in the counties so that we have also professional engineers who are looking at the drawings and carrying out the engineering function. So I think that is where the side I was saying, the more positive side is that we would want to have the right professionals at all levels of delivery of this project, because it starts by project conceptualization. You come to the approval stage, you come to the supervision stage, you also go to operation and maintenance, because a building still needs to be maintained in a certain way so that it remains safe throughout its life. I think that is where we are. We are glad we are getting a lot of cooperation. Yes. I think both from public, we've seen a lot of times, we do get people actually writing to us and saying, I'm complaining, so-and-so is even your engineer, and they didn't do this the right way. And we carry out these investigations. We have about 30 or so active cases today, which we are now setting up teams so that we can investigate. And obviously we are also looking at not only punishment side, but really how do we strengthen
long-term
the space.
Solutions.
Yeah, let me give one now more simple example.
Before you actually give that example, we need to take a very quick commercial break, but we'll be back to pick up from that particular point. Remember, we still welcome your questions, comments, or clarification using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Thank you. Thank you.
To the Second Chance TV game show.
Tough questions.
Virunga National Park is located within which mountain ranges? Aberdare. Aberdare? Is that your final answer?
Tough challenges.
3, 2, 1,
It's a survival for the smartest.
10 seconds to go. Who is the current president of Malawi?
Jakaya Kikwete.
Wrong answer. That is the wrong answer. Does it border to the east? Nakuru County. Nakuru County, you get 2,000 bob.
Premiering soon on Channel 1.
Akili, Akili, this is Akili.
Hey there, friends, what time is it?
What should Akili say to greet little lion? Can you read the word?
Oh! Don't worry, Bush Baby. You can draw it again.
Akili, Akili, this is Akili. She has a secret.
Tell us.
When the sun goes down, Akili goes to sleep, and she enters a world where all the animals speak.
Ukiniangalia mimi mtu kununua second hand,
You look second hand yourself right now.
Mimi nakaondiek. Niangalie hivi, nakaondiek.
Not with those. Maybe with the tummy. No. But
Tosha.
Who hata tujuani? Do you know me?
Are baba.
We know each other.
Iko flying lines hapo.
When ni husband ama ni houseboy? Husband. Nini wewe inakusumbua?
Makoha.
Yes.
Jambo.
Fine, thank you. Oh my God. No. Let me talk the truth and accept the devil, please. Please.
Babyface.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like that. Yes.
Babyface.
Yeah.
Ulionaje kazi yangu? Skills zangu za uzaji zikoaje?
You are excellent.
Wewe mzee. Hatuko hapa mchezo.
Ni kweli hata nani.
Sasa ukisha si uongee vile unaongea.
Ni kweli.
Welcome back. Thank you for your valued company. We continue with this conversation around the engineering profession in Kenya, and with us in studio we still have engineer Dr. Johnson Matu. He is a board member at the Engineers Board of Kenya, as well as the chair of the Registration and Professional Development and Compliance Committee under the EBK. We also have engineer Margaret Ogai, who is the CEO and registrar at the Engineers Board of Kenya. Now, before we went for the break, you are now going to the positive side of the things. You can finish up on that point before we get to move on.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And I think what I wanted to say, when we go to hospital, we will, get introduced that I am Dr. So-and-so, and he treats us. And you have no, doubt that you're being treated by a professional.
Yes.
So we have regulated, I think, the medical space very well. And it's very important, because you cannot be diagnosed and given treatment by somebody who doesn't know, isn't it?
Yes.
So we tried to have weeded out people who are quasi-doctors or quack doctors from the space, unless, of course, you now move and go very informally. But when it comes to the engineering space,
yes,
something we are working on, and we are going to, and we are, that you find many people introduce themselves as engineer. Somebody with a hard hat, probably he's working in a mujengo and has not gone to an engineering school, but will be able to offer you professional advice. Will be able to say, hiyo chuma umeambiwa na engineer ni mingi sana. Toa kiasi ndio we save. So I think that's really what I wanted to bring out, and I think it is to do with people not quite knowing the role of engineers and taking a lot of risks upon themselves. But I think as we are going on, what we've done, we are trying to bring in tools to help members of public to identify who is a bona fide engineer. Apart from our register, which is on our website, we also have engineer's ID. So you can always ask somebody, by the way, you're an engineer of what? Maybe you can show me your ID. We are asking. So I think that these are some of the things we have seen to help us now to distinguish somebody who is qualified in a certain field, to give you advice and support as you put up your mujengo.
As citizens, we also have responsibilities in line with this particular conversation, because let me come to you, Dr. Matu. Almost each and every day, you will come across a new construction site, a new building being put up, a new house being put up. We are seeing, especially residential projects being set up across the country. But then again, looking at the fact that when it comes to registered engineers against the demand, there's a very big gap. But we still see buildings being put out left, right, and center. And for some, they might not actually have that board that gives the information of whom the engineer in charge of this project is and the licenses that are required. How do we address this gap? How do we address that gap? Because again, I call it citizen engineering, where we want to be in charge of our own construction projects. How do we address this concern, and what are the risks actually?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. I think there's a question that that needs to be answered. One, I must say that yes, there is a gap, but the gap is not so big because what has happened is that even with the few engineers that are there, they are not being approached by the developers to do their work. If they were approached, actually they would be able to handle all the designs and the supervision that is required. However, I must say, at the Engineers Board of Kenya, we are trying our best to convert the graduate engineers who have not been registered to professional engineers who can now be relied on by the property developers, so that we create a bigger pool. And we are looking and saying that maybe in another 5 years we should reach about 10,000 professional engineers. And that's a good number which can handle most of the projects that are coming up. To design a building is not that very difficult, and for engineers who are already experienced, they can take a very short time to do, and they can do many projects, provided that they are paid properly by the developers, and provided they are actually involved in those projects. What we have seen out there is that some of the developers approach some of these professional engineers during design. When they do that, they design and give them the drawings. But during construction, they do not involve them at all. And that is where problems do lie. Because at that point, the developers assume that the fundi that my colleague was just saying is capable of actually handling the whole project from there up to the end. And that is a big missing link. And they should understand that the engineers, when they design, it needs to be interpreted. Their design needs to be interpreted to the contractor, the one who is constructing, by an engineer, so that at least they can understand the basis.
And translate it properly.
A fundi may not and will not be able to translate it. And that's why my colleague was saying a fundi can come and say, look, this the way it has been designed, it's too much chuma.
Mawe ni mingi sana.
Mawe ni mingi. Ama mawe ya inchi 9 ni kubwa sana, tuweke ya 6. And it doesn't know that maybe we put that 9-inch stone to be a load-bearing kind of structure. So that is where they go wrong. So it needs an interpretation completely. Again, you may go to a certain site whereby it is a marshy area. People are now buying plots everywhere. And you may find that your plot lies in an area which is a wetland. You need a proper design by the engineer to be able to handle that kind of soil which is there. Some investigations needs to be done to know the strength of that soil, so that when you're putting a building, you know the kind of structure that can actually support the number of floors that you want to go.
How deep you also need to dig.
How deep you need to dig and remove, so that you can find a firm foundation. Yes.
Now, this brings me to also this other phenomenon, and I'm sure both of you have interacted with so many people being in charge of their own construction projects. And I am speaking also from experience. I was part of the team that was helping my father design our home. I was there with a pen and a paper drawing, this bedroom will be like this, we'll have this space in the center of the house, all those grand ideas that we have. And then we say, ndio nijenge. You just get somebody who maybe you have involved in the past for a small structure, ndaka unijenge hii nyumba. What are the risks that come with this aspect of us regular mwananchi who are not qualified in any shape, manner or form in the engineering field being involved or in charge of our own construction projects? Let me start with you, Engineer Margaret.
Clearly, the first one is that you're in contravention of laid down laws. As we said at the beginning, we are established by an Act of Parliament. And in the Act of Parliament, it specifies that the person who can do the building design and construction supervision must be a registered engineer with the board. So unfortunately, that is a big legal risk that you take upon yourself. 2, you also take the risk of not meeting a cost-effective solution. Most times when you don't know, what do you tend to do? You over-assume, isn't it? If you're not so sure, I'm not so sure if I'll have 10 guests coming today, you're going to cook for 25 people just to be safe. So that, again, you're going to lose out in terms of the finance.
Yes.
Because we tend to, if you're not very precise like an engineer in their calculations, you tend to, you put in a little bit more.
Or get the wrong thing as a whole.
You get the wrong thing. I think the worst, and I guess, and I'll then leave it to the board member to carry forward, is obviously that building can collapse. And you will lose that whole investment. And you might even,
integrity.
Yes, and you might even in that process injure, or even at worst case, we can have loss of life. Now, instead of you living with a case of, I was trying to save, or I don't think I need an engineer, you're now going to court because kuna fatality. And unfortunately, I have seen it, particularly, we have seen it with our own citizens, with our graduate engineers, and even in our own professional engineers if they are practicing in the wrong field. If you're registered as a structural engineer, please don't try to do also the electrical aspects of that project, because you really don't have competencies in that area. But I think, I'm sure he will be able to.
Yes, and
supplement.
Dr. Machu, you can add on to that, because we also, a few years later, you start seeing cracks on the walls, and especially even in some rentals, because these are stories that we hear from so many people, cracks on the walls, and maybe that's a 5-story building.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, that happens quite a lot. We have seen many buildings like that. And it happens because quality control. There's nobody checking the quality control when you do not involve the right professionals. If you do not involve a professional engineer, the mixing of cement, for example,
it's a science in itself.
It's a science, indeed. Yeah. So you cannot just say that the engineer had said we are going to have one bag two aggregate portion or sand like this.
Simiti moja na wheelbarrow mbili za mchanga.
Like this. Yeah, and the folder may say, look, why take all that? One cement bag can even take tatosha yote. So, and you start compromising on the standards right from the beginning. That maybe could last you for a short period, maybe 5 years. It may look okay, but after that, when it goes through a test of time, maybe some little movement underground, then cracks start appearing. Yeah, and the aging of the concrete itself, it is a process. If it ages also, it may also bring those problems. Some concrete may not have adequate water in the proper mix, so that it is a dry sort of mixture, and therefore the quality itself is a critical area that needs to be looked at very, very carefully. And therefore, even after 20 years, you have still a risk of having a collapse, of losing your investment, of people dying out of that mistake that was made from the beginning. And that is a very big risk.
So buildings are supposed to stand the test of time if they are constructed the right way.
Yes, we know where it has been done properly. Even in the Western world, we have buildings which have lasted over 400
years,
400, 500 years. We have the Pyramid of Egypt, which was done in BC, before Christ, and they're still standing.
So where can our viewers actually get access to these professionals? Because actually there's also a question here from somebody on Twitter who's Anajita Mjuaji enjoying the conversation, asking, number one, is software engineering a discipline too? And does EBK register software engineers? How can our viewers get access to these registered engineers? Let me start with you, Dr. Matu.
The registered engineers are normally published annually in the Kenya Gazette, and they also appear in the newspapers, and they are also in our website. clearly, if you want to have a professional registered engineer, you'll go to the website and you'll be able to select the person you want.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Maybe you would like to add on to that aspect of also looking at how we can access these professionals, because they are there, but there seems to be a link as to how the common mwananchi like me can access them.
I think, yes, thank you for that. And I'm very, very, really, I think we're very grateful that KBC, you've given us this platform, because we've also realized that part of it is just engagement with the public, to become aware, because sometimes you don't know the risks that you're taking. So I think this is the first step. We want to be understood. We also want to walk the journey with the same wananchi, because we understand they have challenges.
Yes.
I mean, really, truly, we do agree. But I think we want to support and give the technical support where necessary, so that we can keep improving on this, in the investments, because we want to protect your investments. Having said that, I think apart from our website, and we do a publication, Kenya Gazette, every year. By March, we close all those who we actually publish, and it's in the Kenya Gazette.
Okay.
We are going to do a lot more public awareness and engagement at county level. Even if it is Barasas, we are really looking at what we need to do to continue to advise to advise. And that's why I think I started by saying we need to also have professional engineers within the same departments that are processing, because at the end of the day, you're going to send your drawings for approval in the county government, but who is receiving them and who can advise you? That by the way, who you see engineer, ambaye amekuletea hii drawings,
so at a stamp,
or who, yeah, you know, so he'll just stamp, or who, or he might ask you, and who is going to do your supervision for you? Make sure. So I think there are many stages, and we want to work in a very collaborative way.
Yes.
To be honest, we now have a collaborative, an MOU we have come up between the Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors and the National Construction Authority and ourselves, because these professionals have realized, as we move to when we go to the ground, we are also going to be needing to have support, to have support from all of us and awareness from all of us.
Okay, and also you could address the question that was asked about software engineering.
Yes. Thank you. As I said, engineering is also is one of the, it's a growing discipline. We didn't used to have cell phones. Today, I think telecommunications is huge in our lives. We have had four general disciplines, which is civil engineering, mechanical, electrical, and agricultural. This starts from the time that engineering was introduced in the country. And let me say that Kenya, in the region, East Africa region, is the heart of engineering, because the first engineering school was established in Kenya. But we have now recognized, as I said, we are growing. There are more there are other disciplines coming in, and what we've done is set up an advisory team. Every time we get an application which doesn't fit into our traditional, to review the program and then classify it and say this is a registrable course. Software engineering today is not recognized by the board, but we are, as I say, a very dynamic field, because when it comes to transportation alone, today you don't just do transportation. Uber is riding on what? On things to do with telecommunications and software.
Yes.
So I think there's things that are getting a bit more dynamic, and we keep looking. So right now we have mechatronics, which again is using mechanical, electrical field, and also it deals with software. But software engineering is a discipline on its own. Today I can say not yet, but I believe we are continuing to keep looking and reviewing and seeing the content of what you've studied, because what we want is safe, efficient infrastructure, processes and systems, so that we can support Kenyan living. Our Vision 2030, we want what? High standard of life for our citizens.
You want triple-decker roads. Now, let me come to you, Dr. Matu.
Yeah.
There has been concern around the kind of workforce that we are witnessing as a country in terms of expatriate, with some saying that the engineers that are trained in the Kenyan space are not up to par with international standards, and especially when we have international and grand projects in the country. That's why we see labor being imported. This brings me to the question of the quality and standard of education that is offered in our institutions. Is it up to par with international standards that we can confidently say that this narrative that expatriates are more experienced to build in the Kenyan space is actually a fallacy?
Thank you for the question. Yes, our program at the university, I must say, it is of a very high standard. University of Nairobi, University of JKUAT, Kenyatta University, and the other universities which are there. And there are a number of them where we have already accredited their programs. We have looked at the programs and said these ones are okay, and they fit, and they can be compared to any international standard. I think Kenya, our universities are at a very high space, and therefore, what I'm saying is that the graduates who come out of university are very well trained by the time they come out. Yeah, and that idea of saying that the people coming from outside are better than us, I think that is not true, and we have proven it. There are many engineers who have been involved in the very, very big projects here, very complex projects. In fact, I can just say the project of the SGR, we had very many local engineers who were actually reviewing the design and actually supervising. And even telecommunication engineers were all from Kenya. Some came from China, but most of the work was done by our own people, and we were recognized. And in many projects that we do, we have seen the foreigners come in at a certain stage at the beginning, and with the time they realize that they can rely fully on the Kenyans.
Yeah.
Even international consultants finally end up leaving that job to the Kenyans to run. And therefore, what I'm saying is that we have the adequate experience. We are totally capable of handling any project at the moment with very little input of professional engineers from other countries.
Okay.
That's what I can say.
Your thoughts on the same, Engineer Margaret?
Yes, I would like to say that indeed we are also concerned. I think we have even laws and around local content.
Yeah.
So our act has envisaged a situation where there could be a certain knowledge that we do not have. Yes, clients and employers are supposed to seek, we're supposed to register whether you're a foreign engineer or a local engineer. All engineers working in this country are supposed to be registered by the board. And what we have is, if there's a certain skill set we do not have, we allow for that temporary particular buyer project, you're able to come and work in Kenya, but we also tell you to put in place measures to make sure that also our local engineers get that expertise, so that eventually it is something like I think Engineer Dr. Matu has said, we have a lot of capacity in this country. Actually, what we are looking at is the next phase for us is how do we export our knowledge and our skills. Without too much government support, our engineers are really the ones who build in southern Africa. Yes. The Lesotho, Botswana,
Sudan.
And now we have moved into the South Sudan space. And even Rwanda, they are very well recognized and appreciated within the region. And so we are looking and we are saying, let us get that support for our local engineers, one, to get the full, to be able to practice here. Unfortunately, I think this thing of also foreign engineers is also riding on. We sometimes get development partner support, which rides on some conditionalities. And we are saying, let us review that. So that is also reality.
It's a challenge.
It is a challenge because sometimes you're actually told for different reasons that you will also need to have the farms to be considered at this. But I think that's why we're saying, let us also look at the local content requirements, because we have what should we call it? It is really a commitment as a country to continue to create decent jobs for our people. I have seen even under the bottom-up manifesto, they have recognized we only have, I think in terms of the employment, we're only looking at about 3 million people who are employed in formal space. The rest are SMEs. And as a country, we are not going to develop if we are not able to look at, if we already have trained a highly professional professions, where do they fit in our economy? Why do we have them either going to, an engineer who is trained as an engineer going to go into another space, marketing and banking? They are good, but you can imagine what you have lost, that skill set. Again, sometimes they also go abroad. So it means you'll never also recover as a country unless we start looking and saying, let us have our well-trained lawyers, and I think we working here and supporting our wananchi as we seek to interpret laws and justice. And the same thing for engineering, same thing with the medicine, same thing with teachers.
Yes.
We really need the best of ourselves
of our own
to contribute to our development.
And that brings in the concern of brain drain. Because yes, you've gone through the training at an institution, you've done your 4 or 5 years, you've come out, you've practiced for maybe 2 or 3 years, then you get a scholarship to advance your education. International scholarship for that matter. Go to this particular city, finish training, but you find most of these individuals get employed where they go for this further training, where they get the scholarships, and fewer times they come back to bring that knowledge here in the country and even to our schools, because I can attest to the fact that most universities, our lecturers are quite old. We never see young lecturers, and especially in a hands-on field like engineering. What can we do to address this concern of brain drain and returning this knowledge back to the country? Should we resort to conditions? Let me start with you, Dr. Matu.
Yes. I think that is very true. But you know what has been happening? Number one is that lecturers are very much underpaid, and that's a big problem. So that the salaries of the lecturers and the professionals outside there in practice, there's a very big gap. Wage gap.
Yeah.
And that is number one, really. Otherwise, most of the people you see there at the university are really passionate teachers, lecturers who really just want to pass on knowledge to the young people. Yeah. And if they were only paid a little more, we would have more people remaining at the university. Yes, that is very key, because they have really suffered. That we have seen many of them stay there after some time. They go out of the country and they get very big jobs outside there.
And they would rather stay there.
And they would rather stay there. A lecturer, who is a lecturer here, when he goes out there, within a short time, he's a professor. When they go there, they are recognized a little more than we do. And therefore, we need to look at the universities, ensure that the lecturers are well paid, and even in our education system, the teachers really need to be paid well.
All right.
Because finally, at the end of the day, they are the ones who have trained all of us, including our president, including everybody else, the doctors, everybody that we have. So we need to concentrate a lot of resources in that space so that we ensure that they are well taken care of.
All right. Your thoughts on the same as we bring the conversation to a close?
No, I really appreciate that. Yes, I think indeed there is brain drain. And I think the first thing is how are we accommodating all our trained professionals within the economy? And some of the solutions, I think, are how do we pay these professionals? We want to also train to give everybody their best. If you've got to focus and do research, even researchers, they tend to be undervalued and kept aside, and you cannot progress as well if we don't have innovation, to solve the problems that are with us as a society. I think as a board, what we've done, we also have what we're calling an academic a collaboration we've set up within this. It has started with the State Department of Infrastructure and the academia. Because we've said that even when it comes to research, local research, we would want that if it is the road agencies, they are always using the best knowledge, and they're using the universities to generate that knowledge. Through that same research, we think our engineers, our younger engineers who are working as lecturers, can also come to us with registrable projects, and they would get registered. So I think it's a win-win that we have established through that. I also look at, I think everything has, yes, there's brain drain, but also remember, those are our ambassadors out there. We don't live in an isolation. Today, the world is what we call the global village. So we are also encouraging that mobility. We want our engineers to be out there, like I said, to be in South Sudan. Because what do we get then? Remittances. Good even remittances.
Yes.
I think what we get from diaspora is also good.
Yes.
We have reached out again. I think through the Institution of Engineers of Kenya, who we partner with very well, we're trying to have a constituency of diaspora engineers, because that same knowledge, if we want to do capacity building programs, we would ask that person who is practicing in an advanced economy, come and train our engineers on these things. So I think it also works two ways. But I think, like he says, ultimately, we first need to have saturated our economy with our own skill sets here, but we also very much want to be outward looking, because there's a lot more to gain to be, to be part of the world economy, because then there is no limit to what we can do. And I can assure you, Kenyans, I think we are doing very well. With a bit of support, we have our structures in place. Okay. We have the dedication, and I think everybody wants to do very well for this economy. Let's support each other, and I believe we'll be able to transform this country and our economy. Thank you.
I think that's a good point to just pause this conversation, because again, we live in a developing country, developing times. Things keep changing, and as they do, we'll be here to ensure that we bring you this information straight from the experts. And with us in studio this morning, we have been speaking with engineer Dr. Johnson Matu. He is a board member at the Engineers Board of Kenya, and also is the chair of Registration and Professional Development and Compliance Committee under the Engineers Board of Kenya, as well as engineer Margaret Ogai. She is the CEO and registrar at the Engineers Board of Kenya. Thank you very much, lady and gent, for being with us today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We have Elijah Macau saying stunning guests with us in studio this morning.
We're encouraged.
Thank you.
All right, so that brings us to a close of this conversation, but we are not done with Good Morning Kenya. We have so much more still lined up for you, so do stay with us. We will be back after this breather.
Thank you.
It was during my days at Skywall. I was a fool.
Have you forgotten you're marrying Suzanne today?
I did. Completely.
Forget it. But I'm still not going to speak with him. Send him away.
My lady, he didn't come here to see you, but Ferna.
In this world, no other woman will love you more than I do.
Umeliona gazeti la leo?
This is still disturbing.
Hivi ndo wenzako washapatana basi.
Huyo anatuita iko
Ngoja lifunguke. Kwani yuanza yeye kupenda? Atakuachaje siku zote hizo aje akurudie sasa? Yaani hapo hushiki mita.
Nimekupigania sana Leo. Tumepitia mambo mengi sana mimi na wewe. Babangu mimi nitamwambia nini?
Na usijaribu kunidanganya. Usijaribu kunidanganya kwa sababu faili niliziona.
Yani ina maana nchi ama mji ikiwa na amani, unakuta hata nchi zingine zinawadhamini, zinawafadhili sana, zinawaaminia.
Muislamu wa kisawasawa ni yule ambaye anadumisha amani, anaepukana na maneno ambayo yanaweza kupelekea kuvurugika kwa amani, na vitendo vyake pia huwa vinahusika na kuhifadhi amani.
Bringing the back on the gun to come and shut the youth them heart. Later and red. When you all a look them on a tea bread. I hear a next youth dead. Whoa. Chatty, Mount Amasi, mix up. Why you no leave people business? I said below people business. Good God, I tell you, man.
It's been a long time. We don't have no vibe like this. Play the music again. Yeah, reggae music again. It's been
What's wrong with it? Everyone at the hotel already knows that we're a couple.
Because the hotel is our place of work.
You were the brat that bullied me in school when my parents were killed.
I'm so sorry, but I really don't remember.
But I remember it all.
Fortunately, it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's too painful for her and for all of us here as well.
If I don't see you back at work first thing tomorrow, you can go find another job. But Mrs. Lee here, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
Of live TV.
Exactly 15 minutes to the top of the hour. You're still on Good Morning Kenya, still Viewpoint. We'd accept a bit and talk about physiotherapy, and this is in relation to commemorating this particular day that annually happens on the 8th of September since it was designated in 1996, just to create awareness as well as celebrate those in this particular practice. I'm holding court with my guest, that is Henry Opondo, who is the president at the Kenya Society of Physiotherapists. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
I almost changed your name. But good morning to you.
Morning.
All right, and I just want us to broach this discussion from understanding and putting context to what you want to discuss further, and that is understanding what physiotherapy is.
Thank you, Doreen, for this opportunity. And as you say, my name is Henry Opondo, not Odongo.
Yes.
In regards to what is physiotherapy, number one, physiotherapy is a medical profession. That is, should come out very clearly.
Yes.
So, it being a medical profession.
Emphasis on the medical.
Medical profession. Yes. So, a medical profession meaning its primary function or its core function is to offer clinical interventions or clinical services that will restore, that will promote, that will maintain and actually optimize a patient's mobility, function, and overall well-being.
Okay. So this is actually a medical profession, not as how it has been termed over time, because I was just looking at an article which stated that in the past it was normally regarded as massage tricks here and there, but it is actually a medical profession.
And we'll get to talk about that. And from that simple definition of what physiotherapy is, besides being a medical profession, when we say offering clinical interventions that will restore, will promote, and optimize patients' mobility, for you to actually understand that Doreen's mobility or movement is not in order, you need some science. You need to understand how the joints operate. You need to understand how the muscles operate. For you now to say, I want to bring it back to normal, you should be able to assess and diagnose and say objectively that, you know what, Doreen, this structure is at fault. The structure could be a muscle, the structure could be a tendon, it could be a ligament. And to say now it is at the optimal, this is the best that you can get. Again, that requires critical thinking, that requires science, that requires understanding of the human function. So to say it's massage, you can really tell that massage, I mean, even you, when your kid falls down or they hit their head, you massage their head. That is not physiotherapy.
So it's beyond what it has
it's
been
beyond
termed.
the perception.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And that's what we are here to do, actually, to demystify the perception, because even as you're talking earlier, we were saying that oftentimes it's not regarded with the high esteem that it needs to, because of, you know, those assumption and perception therein. But we'll get to that momentarily. But yes, even as you talk about it being commemorated tomorrow, that's happening tomorrow on the 8th of September. This has been the trend since 1996. I mean, except just creating awareness, why is it also equally important to have this day or commemorate it, so to speak?
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. So this day again is not actually set by Kenyans. Neither is it set by Ugandans. It is set by the world governing body, which is called World Physiotherapy. So World Physiotherapy provide overall guidance in terms of physiotherapy practice in different countries. Just like we have World Health Organization that works with the different countries through the Ministry of Health to cascade down policies that are help to improve the public health. So in physiotherapy, not to equate, but to just bring that understanding that we are aligned by the World Physiotherapy Body, whose headquarters or offices are in the UK. They are the ones that brought this concept of 8th September to be the World Physiotherapy Day. And every year, we have a different theme. This year's theme is different with the last year's theme, and so shall it will be different with the next year's theme. Why 8th September? Again, it is because that is the time that the World Physiotherapy Body was formed, on an 8th September, I think 1956.
Is it 51 or 56?
51. You will know physiotherapy more than me. Okay? So this day what we are doing is that we are coming together as physiotherapists, not only to enlighten the public, not only to demystify the perceptions that have been misconstrued about physiotherapy, but also to recognize some of the milestones we've made and appreciate what we have not done right to help improve the public health as well as improve the welfare of our own physiotherapists, the service provider, and also bring other stakeholders, because we cannot work in silos. Bring other stakeholders that plays a great important role to truly understand the contribution of physiotherapy in the management of public health. These stakeholders could be people like National Hospital Insurance, the NHIF, Ministry of Health, and many others. So this is what we intend to do on 8th September, which is tomorrow.
All right, and we'll get to that event, which actually we've partnered with KMTC and KNH in a bit. But you've said something that I want us to get deeper into, that celebrating this day or commemorating it is not just for the sake of awareness, because when you look at most of these days that are normally celebrated annually, talk about World Forest Day, World Water Day, Cancer Awareness Day, oftentimes there's that idea. I know there are other reasons behind them, but there's always that inclination to create awareness. But you say that it's also not just that, but also allied to understanding the milestones we have made so far, the loopholes that still exist therein. But also, why is it just important for that awareness bit before we get further to the details of having this day?
The awareness bit, again, is because no one was born with all the knowledge.
True.
And if you look at medical industry, sometimes it's a very sad industry because the people who comes to you, they're not happy. They're in pain. They need solution. And currently, our health setup has had a lot of bureaucracy. And it's a one-sided market. It's not like you walk to the supermarket and choose that, you know what, I want to buy a cooking oil and I'll settle for Chipsy. But when you come to the kind of healthcare that we have currently, you are a recipient of what the doctor says or what the physiotherapist says. The best you can do to Google, but no one will tell you that what you Google is right or correct. So patients or the...
Because you're also subject to the information that you found there.
Exactly. Okay. So the public is not so much aware of certain cadres that they can actually access directly without a lot of bureaucracy that I need to go and see so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so to later refer me back to physiotherapy. And sometimes we get to refer them for physiotherapy when it is too late. So that's why we also want to bring this awareness to the public that physiotherapy has a role in these kind of conditions. And we're inviting them for like screening so that they're able to understand, I don't need to go and queue, wait for example an orthopedic surgeon, not out of bad faith, wait for an orthopedic surgeon when it is something that truly I can easily walk into one facility, let's say in Bagadi sub-county hospital, see a physiotherapist, get sorted out and go back home.
I think that's why it was important for us to understand what exactly physiotherapy is. And just as you rightly put it, it's actually a medical profession at the end of the day. Let's go to those milestones. 26 years later, and again, as you said, it's not a day celebrated by Kenyans or Ugandans in the examples you gave, but this is a world day. It's an
World
event
Physiotherapy Day.
Exactly, across the globe.
Yes.
But let's narrow down to our context in Kenya. What are some of those gains made so far?
Well, a lot. For a long time, Doreen, this country had only one training institute for physiotherapy. Only one. And that was Kenya Medical Training College, an institution that we respect because has really bridged the gap in terms of producing competent health workforce to meet the rising needs of our public health across Kenya. And some has even gone beyond our boundaries. The gains we've made is that now you don't have to queue and go to Kenya Medical Training College, Nairobi.
For training.
To get training. KMTs itself have devolved other campuses. They have like now 5 campuses that offer physiotherapy. Again, that increases the intake for persons willing to be physiotherapists. Leave it there. That is at diploma level. KMTC has gone ahead to offer specialization courses whereby we cannot say one tool fit all. You go to the area of interest and get trained and become a specialist. So right now as we speak, we have people who have specialized in orthopedic manual therapy. These are issues to do with the muscles, bones, ligaments, tendons. These are people who can work very well in sports industry. These are people who can work very well in an institution like this, whereby sometimes sitting is the day, and that can bring stress to your joint. We have our other professionals who are moving with the camera. It involves maybe bending, lifting, standing for long. That is musculoskeletal. Another interesting part is now what we call now the pelvic health. And you know, in Kenya or in Africa, it's been a taboo to talk about the pelvic health or to talk about the reproductive system of a human being. Yet, we have a population as young as 35 males who are having erectile dysfunction disorders. What do? They sneak, go see the physician, they get these drugs to boost their sexual life. When it's something that a physiotherapist trained in pelvic health can help improve that muscle to perform. Our female, our sisters, young as 30, maybe due to factors that are beyond their control. It could be forced marriage at early age, affecting their reproductive system. It could be rape. It could be child labor. They end up with incontinence or urine leakage. They go to work, they have to carry like 3 extra panties so that they change. They suffer in silence. Today we have physiotherapists trained to improve improve the performance and the life of this kind of individuals. But we leave KMTC alone. When you finished KMTC those days and you want to upgrade to bachelor's, master's, the nearest school you'll get was in South Africa.
Not even in Kenya.
Not even in Kenya. Today, we have universities that offer bachelor's degree, that offers masters. We have JKUAT, we have AMREF, we have Moi University, and many other. So that is in terms of training.
Yes.
In terms of practice, again, we've seen increased uptake of employment for physiotherapists, structured employment. And this you can compare because physiotherapy, we are like a family of what we call rehabilitation medicine, where we have physiotherapy and other sub-cadres, not sub-cadres, but other important cadres like occupational therapy, speech, and so forth. But if you walk into a healthcare institution, if you walk to Kenyatta National Hospital, or you walk to Karen Hospital, the number of physiotherapists versus the number of occupational therapists, you'll find more physiotherapists available in the institution. And I mean, it goes with the numbers. I mean, you'll only employ where there is need.
Yeah.
Okay? The resources are scarce, and not only they are scarce, they have alternative use. So as a physiotherapy profession, again, that's growth that we've witnessed, increased uptake of employment compared to like 20 years ago. Still, of course, there's a lot we need to do about that. In terms of regulations, again, not even 20 years ago, 10 years ago, it was, I think I'll say it was almost very easy for Doreen to wake up, offer that massage you're talking about and say it's physiotherapy. Because we didn't have an oversight body that is anchored on the Kenyan law. As we speak, we have an oversight body, the Physiotherapy Council of Kenya, that has provisions on who is a physiotherapist and what should a physiotherapist do.
So not anyone who thinks that they can massage as it were, or as it was termed, then they regard themselves as a physiotherapist.
And I need to make this clear.
Yes.
Any patient who has to seek physiotherapy services, if that is a physiotherapist, let them produce for you a license. It is in
the regulations have gone as far.
Yes. Our license is like an ID form or a driver license.
Which is what you're showing actually.
So you can carry this. Any physiotherapist with license should supposed to have this when they practice. Any patient, let that physiotherapist show you their license.
Well said. So that is in terms of training, in terms of regulations.
In terms of practice.
Yes, in respect to some of the gains made.
And lastly, like those days when we started school, the books, the research we used to read, because you have to be, like if they want to train, they want to give you, to train you like this cup can be used for treatment. They'll say, a study was done, maybe they were treating rats and so forth, and this was the result, the efficacy, the efficiency, and so forth. Those studies that we were reading, nearly all of them, nearly 99%, were studies that were done outside Africa. Today, as we speak, we have studies done in Kenya, meaning we have physiotherapists who have gone to the level of now publishing their own research. And so again, implementation becomes easy because it is done on our population. The recommendation is based on our population, as opposed to a study done in Italy, and they want to copy-paste the population in Italy and implement in Kenya. It becomes a challenge.
It becomes a very big challenge. Before we get to the undoing of some of these gains and perhaps why it's not held with high regard that it needs to, just listening to the gains you've enumerated, quite a number of them. But there's something you mentioned on the practice that, and your example was that if you walk to Karen Hospital, for example, you'll find the occupational therapist, therapist with the more compared to the physiotherapist. So then does this mean that there's a difference between these two?
Well, yes, of course. There's a big difference between occupational therapy and speech therapy and physiotherapy.
These are the types.
No.
They're not the types.
These are how do I make it easy for you? You see, like when you're building a house, there's that person who is in charge of the structural component part of it, isn't it? How the walls are coming up, the lintels and so forth. Then you'll get someone who is now in charge of roofing. Then you'll get someone in charge of lightning, wiring. Then you'll get someone in charge of interior design and so forth, okay? Yeah. At the end of the day, they're giving you a house.
But each one with their own roles.
Each one with their own roles and scope of practice. So you cannot say that since I've done a very good foundation, I don't need you don't need to lecture me about the roofing. No. Okay? So they are not like subspecialty for physiotherapy, but they are sister professional colleagues. Okay? We don't do the same job. We have a clear cut, and even the regulations, they have got different regulations. But in the umbrella, it's just like there you want to bring, you go to theater, and you'll find an anesthetist working very closely with an orthopedic surgeon. Doesn't mean they are regulated by the same person. They study the same, they specialize in the same thing, but they work together.
They work in the same premise, the same system, working together. So they work in tandem.
Exactly.
For the benefit of the patient. Yeah. And this is a good point to actually go for that break. When we come back, we explore more of those loopholes as well as the event that also will be happening tomorrow.
Thank you.
Time for that breather. When we come back, we still explore more of matters to do with physiotherapy, also in relation to it being commemorated tomorrow. Stay put.
Everyone at the hotel already knows that we're a couple.
Because the hotel is our place of work.
You were the brat that bullied me in school when my parents were killed.
I'm so sorry, but I really don't remember.
But I remember it all.
Fortunately, it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's too painful for her and for all of us here as well.
If I don't see you back at work first thing tomorrow, you can go find another job. But Mrs. Lee here, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
Songea tukupashe na zile ambavyo vitakupa tabasamu tosha.
Hana mapenzi wala mahaba, mtoto mbaya sana huyu.
What did you just say? Sio tamthilia tu.
And why you're saying that
Ni tamthilia tosha.
Alinishika hivi. What?
Sio burudani tu, ni burudani tosha.
It is the day that the Lord has made.
Na sinema bomba.
Enda kabisa kama uelewi kitu inafaa uelewe.
Na mada za kusisimua. KBC Channel 1, shirika la utangazaji Kenya.
Mbona unakimbia? Kwani umeona cost?
Hiyo cost nini ndio mtaiona eh? I hope you are ready for the exams.
Me niko Lendi, tell him to bring it on.
Teacher, Mr. Macfridge, I am on my bended knees and I am very sorry. I acknowledge that you are the teacher and I am the student. I am sorry.
Viva! Viva!
Kinyanjui, you have a lot of explaining to do. Can you come back here? Mr. Teacher, I am learning somewhere very, very important. I will receive you later.
Welcome back, and still holding court with my guest Henry Opondo, who is the president, Kenya Society of Physiotherapists. And we're still talking about matters with physiotherapy in relation to tomorrow's event. Before we went on that break, Henry, we were talking about some of those gains, and clearly, just as I had put earlier, there's really a lot that has been made in terms of gains. But as you're saying earlier, when you look at this profession, there's still not being held with the high regard that it needs to. In fact, even just understanding that at the end of the day, it's a medical profession, not just any kind of, theatrics that you might want to put in relation to massaging a patient based on whatever they're suffering from. But let's look at those loopholes and the undoings therein. And when you're talking about the gains, you mentioned that back in the day, KMTC was the only, training institution. Was that perhaps one of those undoings of this kind of profession not being recognized as it needs to?
Thank you, Doreen. I wouldn't say that that largely contributed to it, but partially maybe yes, because for example, out of good faith, Kenya Power, it's the only producer of electricity, and so we have to abide with whatever we have, and again, we don't know the alternative. Okay, so by just
people having alternatives of solar energy.
Yeah, but that will not be. It's also come with a lot of installation, a lot of security checks.
Sure, I get your point. I do.
You get it.
Yes,
you can put it, and you're not sure if it's going to stay forever.
Yeah.
A lot of it, but electricity, once you install it, I mean, it's hard. It's hard for someone to come and remove the wires and so forth. So maybe that monotony created space, because you realize there are many needs. There are people who need these services, but the supply is very limited. So people crossed borders, and they went did certain courses, and come back and pose like physiotherapist. And you know, as you say, there's been a thin line, but it's because we also as physiotherapists we've not been able to come out clearly and tell the public, tell our colleagues what we do, and show them what we do, and document what we do. So it's also our own undoings as physiotherapists.
Okay. So it goes both ways.
It goes both ways. And then the third part, the undoing, which is still again monopoly, you find that there's the essential commodities and supplies, machines, equipment, and so forth. You find that centrally they are still being approved by certain institutions that we really respect. And these institutions really, they are not physiotherapists. They don't have physiotherapists in their midst to advise them that ideally this is safe, this is not safe. And that's why you get to see patients who are capable of buying certain equipment, they buy and they want to use it to treat their back pain or their leg pain, and they end up with first-degree burn, second-degree burn. It's because
they become their own untrained physiotherapists.
Exactly, because I mean, physiotherapist was not involved in assessing the authenticity of this product, how safe it is, and that's why you get Sarah Jem wants to associate with physiotherapy because they know physiotherapy is a medical term, is a medical profession, but let's see how we can sneak this and say it treats stroke within one day. So those are some of the undoings that we've witnessed by having limited scope of trainings, limited scope of regulations.
But now, based on what you said in terms of training and regulation, at least we can say that we are moving forward towards the right direction.
Trainings, we are moving right we are moving correct in the right direction. In regulations, I think we need to really up our game. And for your information, I'm also chairing the Physiotherapy Council of Kenya. And we just have our inaugural meeting yesterday, trying to structure and really make sure that we try as much as possible to make sure that the environment is safe. I mean, the people posing as physiotherapists are true physiotherapists. One of the areas highly abused are sports.
Okay.
These
are the sports?
Our sports personalities in Kenya. If you do an audit and find the people moving with them as physiotherapists, I think those are the people that offer massage that you are talking about. Yes. So we still have some work to do in terms of oversight, in terms of regulation, but in terms of practice, we're in the right direction.
Now, before I come to the rules, because I want to get there and also the tech bit of it and the innovations therein, let's just stick on that regulations bit for a moment, because again, you've equally mentioned our sports personalities, and this is a conversation that is always out there when it comes to our sports personalities and them being misused. Yes, they represent us in a very good way, but the underlying factors really oftentimes come out a lot. So, I mean, in this regulations, but then what more do we need to do to just streamline that area?
Thank you, Doreen. In health system management, we call it leadership and governance, stewardship. I think we as leaders from different sectors, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Sports and Labor, I mean, let's have the goodwill. Let's have the goodwill and listen to each other in terms of recommendations that we make. Physiotherapy, as I told you, is a medical profession.
Yes.
And when we communicate, which we've done, I mean, we don't need to really do other things that are not necessary to make you understand that our sports personality in their team, besides many other cadres that are needed, like nutritionists and so forth, for physiotherapists, let's use the existing structures to ascertain or to assess that yes, so and so is a certified physiotherapist with special interest or with speciality in sports. Why would I give them, for example, if he's a physiotherapist who has special interest in pediatrics in Gertrude Children's Hospital? So to me, it's more of governance issues, because we have people with skills, but to penetrate there is the problem, and that's why I'm talking leadership and governance. We have enough human resource. We have people who have been trained. We have ways to evaluate that truly you are a recognized physiotherapist and you can do it. Go do it. So the issue that we are trying to say today, and we will be saying tomorrow, is the contribution of physiotherapy in the life of our public health.
Okay, so then does this mean that a physiotherapist is not just a physiotherapist? There's expertise and speciality depending on a particular field?
Where we are heading to, the last 5 years, we have specialities in our midst. It is time to recognize the specialities if we mean professional growth.
I still want you to explain it further. I hear you saying that in the past 5 years, that's where we are going. But then, because when you talk about physiotherapists, so to speak, and just as we have talked about for the past few minutes in this conversation, there's always that assumption, and that's what I want us to really break today in this conversation. So then, when you talk about physiotherapist for this particular patient or this particular disease or this particular area, it means then that when you talk about this person is a physiotherapist, then there's a form of speciality and skill they have in this area, but they're still a physiotherapist. Then there's one who has a skill in a certain area, but they're still a physiotherapist.
Perfect. So I think I get your question very clear, and let's try to make it very simple for the public.
Yes.
A doctor graduates today from University of Nairobi. It's called a medical officer. Okay?
Yeah.
He's called a medical officer. He goes and works, for example, in the casualty, or what we call accident and emergency. You will see all the patients, okay? But there are those cases that you'll want to refer or consult. Maybe a physician for infectious disease, maybe an orthopedic surgeon, maybe an ENT. And there are those who are like, yes, I can manage up to this level. However, you need now follow up with a specialty. Now, we have physiotherapists, both diploma and bachelors, trained. Okay? They come up as, in quote, medical officers. These are now the physiotherapists. But we also have physiotherapists that they have moved from medical officers, that is the graduate physiotherapists, whether diploma or bachelors, and have now specialized. Just the same way this medical officer will one day go back to specialize and become a gynecologist, a pediatrician, neurologist, orthopedic surgeon. The same with physiotherapists. After their basic training, and basic training could be diploma, could be the bachelor's, then they go and now specialize in these trainings. So what we are saying, we have a large pool of acute setting or hospitalized patients which need physiotherapy. But out of that population of the acute setting or controlled setting, maybe you have 1,000 patients, you may get 10 that has got special needs that you need to consult, including myself. I meet patients who has neurological issues, and I feel like, you know what? I am not a specialist in neuro. I need to consult Dr. Catherine Wambua, for example, who is a physiotherapist.
In that area.
In that area.
But that's but you're still a physiotherapist, not just specialized in that particular area. Okay.
And there's still the much I can give this patient. But in terms of, you remember I talked about in defining physiotherapy.
Yes.
We want to restore, we want to maintain, and we want to optimize. You know, optimize is giving the best that you can achieve. Patient mobility, patient function, and well-being. So maybe, to make it simple, at the point of optimizing their mobility, their function, their well-being, is now I need that specialist.
And that's why it was important for me to ask, that question just for clarity and also for viewers to understand that we have physiotherapy is a physiotherapy at the end of the day, but each of them is skilled in a particular area. Because, you'd have someone, perhaps a cancer patient, you have an older person, children. They will all be taken care of by a physiotherapist, but depending on the skill is what will determine who will take care of a cancer patient, someone with a wound, an older person, children, there as you go like that.
Perfect.
Okay, now that makes sense.
Makes sense. Makes sense. As we speak, and it's like you read us very well. We have physiotherapists who has got special, how do I call it, skills in managing patients in those very, very tight settings like cancer, lymphedema, whereby you get, because of the cancer, the lymph nodes are blocked, so you get the limbs swell beyond control. Yeah. Yes.
And that needs a skilled person to do that. You mentioned, mobility, function, well-being. Are those the roles of a physiotherapist, or they go beyond that?
So, mobility is movement.
Yes.
Okay? Movement, walking, sitting, and so forth. Function. For you to function, so mobility, we are looking at the body. Mobility. What could be challenging? What could be minimizing you? We call it in medical term impairment. The cause of the problem, not the problem. Okay? The problem could be back pain. Okay? So back pain could be preventing you from sitting long. You get that?
Yes.
So we are looking at the impairment. What is causing the back pain? And that is a big topic. Just mobility. That is a big, big topic, because there are thousands of information on your spine that can cause back pain. And for you to get to the point of reasoning that there are 1,000 things that can cause back pain, first of all, you need to understand what is the back. What is the orientation of the muscles? What is the orientation of the vertebral bodies? What you call the spinal cord, but it's not actually spinal, but the vertebral bodies. What is the orientation of the nerves? And then now come and make it, dissect it, and now say, okay, if you sit, this is what is happening. Now we are trying to add what you do experience, what we have physically assessed, to make a judgment that, you know what, it is your disc. Or it's actually the facet joint. That is just mobility. So we fix mobility.
All this was just mobility?
That is just mobility. Let's go to function. So you function while sitting? Yes. My nature of work require me to sit. Okay? Okay. Maybe I'm a long distance truck driver. Take a truck from Mombasa to Rwanda. That is sitting. That is how you earn your livelihood. So we have fixed mobility that now you can sit. But now comes the question, for how long can you sit? Can you continue with this activity of your daily life? Because that is our aim, to promote that functionality. We don't want to tell you stop working, because that one we are making you disabled. Okay?
Yes.
We want you to continue working. So how do we sustain the gains we have made? Now that is function. And again, that is a whole topic
by itself
of physiotherapy. Talking about strengthening exercise, talking about endurance exercise. And again, you must understand which muscle are you working on, because it is these muscles that provide natural support to your spine. you'll see many people rushing to the corset, those belts. They buy and put it. I call them artificial support. When God had a reason why he gave you the natural support to function with it. That's why physiotherapy is coming in.
But the corsets also come in with different reasons. For
they come for different reasons.
People put it.
But doesn't mean they should be part of your life. The problem becomes when it becomes part of your life.
Okay.
If you tell me you want to drive from Mombasa to Rwanda on a corset, the opposite is that you're disabled. And the physiotherapy try to bridge that gap, that you can function. You remember function?
Yes.
And make it more functionable within your setup, your age, nature of work, and so forth.
Regardless.
Yes.
Then there was well-being.
The general well-being. We call it health and fitness.
And let me just get it before you go there. So these are roles of a physiotherapy.
These are primary functions of a physiotherapy under the context of clinical service delivery or clinical intervention.
All right.
We are clinicians.
By profession. Well-being. What does this entail as you're explaining, the functions and the mobility? What about well-being?
Yes. So well-being, let's look at it broadly. Let's look at it broadly. Okay? Well-being, like you are well. Well-being. Okay? So we are looking at health and fitness. We are looking at, and this is one of the primary roles, that why do we have to wait until Doreen has low back pain to seek healthcare services? If you look at it economically, and that's why in developed countries, they try to minimize patient admissions. They try holding patients within the setup because that is loss of labor. The longer you stay in bed, the more unproductive you are to the nation. Okay?
The worse it becomes to the economy.
Exactly. And that's a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Now, the people who depend on you, the people who need bread, the people who need to be told bye in the morning going to school. That is part of well-being. So we are trying to make an effort to promote what we call health and fitness. Ergonomics. Working while still maintaining a proper life. Because it has been proven that when your back hurts, it bothers your mind. When it bothers your mind, it challenges the stability of the mental judgment. When the mental judgment is destabilized, you become emotional. You try to minimize social interactions. Me, I can't squat. Me, I can't dance. Me, I can't go do that. So we're looking at how can we promote physical wellness to provide overall well-being, preventive health care. That's what I'm saying.
Well said. Now let's look at the trends and innovations in this particular practice. I mean, Henry, we are living at a time whereby it is the innovations. We're looking at social trends, so to speak. We are looking at innovations in different capacities and different fields. When it comes to physiotherapy, what are the trends embraced or therein in this practice?
Yes. We are
There's some terms that I also want us to look at very briefly, but what are those trends first?
Well, a lot is going on and we are catching up. So let's look at, first of all, on the training side. You find that, for example, the institution I told you, like KMTC, that is offering specialization courses at higher diploma level. We have also like AMREF that is now offering bachelor's degree the innovations that they have managed to bring into practice or into use that is really benefiting our physiotherapists is what we call the e-learning, the online learning platform. And you find like the two institutions, most of the faculties that they have are not within the country, they're abroad. And so we're actually having remote training, but so to call it best available teachers. We can as well say our own candidates are studying in UK.
Much as they are here.
When they're studying, not even studying in school here physically, at their home.
Oh, that's interesting. So those are some of the things that have been embraced when it comes to the aspect of training. All right. There's something that I also came across, electrotherapy. And I want to believe that this is a term that is used when it comes to physiotherapy. Perhaps you can tell us, what is this? Maybe what has it been, and at what point is it used?
Yeah. Electrotherapy is a widely used term in physiotherapy, and it's also a term that has been highly abused.
How so?
Yeah. Electrotherapy, therapy, let's divide it. Therapy means treatment. Therapy means treatment. You've heard of chemotherapy?
Yes.
It means treatment with chemicals. Okay? Physiotherapy, treatment with physical means. Radiotherapy, treatment using radioactive waves. So therapy means treatment. So when you talk of electrotherapy, it's therapy based on electronic. Not electricity.
This is class 101.
It's treatment based on electrophysical agents. It's based on machines.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. And we have a number of machines. We have what we call ultrasound machine in physiotherapy, leave alone the ultrasound in imaging. You know that ultrasound they do when they want to see how the baby is growing? That is for imaging. We also have ultrasound in
And just to butt in, that's in respect to the innovations.
No, that has been there. The only thing...
It has been there?
It's been there. The only thing is that...
Why does it look like a new term?
The only thing is that there's been a lot of improvement in terms of the products.
Okay.
Just like in 1990s, the best car was Peugeot 544, and if you had it, it means you had money. Today,
can't quite have it.
Yeah. So they have been there. They have been there. The only thing, there's been a lot of innovation. We are really getting highly state-of-the-art equipment. And so forth. So we have we have TENS, what we call electronic nerve stimulator. We have laser therapy and so forth. But these machines, to make our people understand, is that these machines also they have a limited scope. They have a limited scope. To me, these machines are like. They are part of our strategy of offering treatment. Okay?
Yeah.
If I'm a surgeon, I can decide and say, you know, take Neurobin, take some nerve drugs, anti-inflammatory and painkiller for a month, and let's see. Then second month, they say, you know what? Take these painkillers and do physiotherapy. Then the third month, they say, no, now let's go for surgery. Okay? So it's also in physiotherapy. We have different phases of treatment. So electrotherapy, we tend to use it a lot in acute phase. Acute phase is whereby the patient is highly inflammable. The patient is in so much pain, so much pain, acute trauma, like fresh injuries, whereby movement produces, or movement adds them more pain.
All right.
Okay? So we use this to make it very easy. We use it to numb the pain so that we can offer some exercises, so that we can offer some mobilization, we can offer some training, we can offer some kind of posture correction.
All right, well said. And I can already hear my director, just saying that you're pinched for time. But I wouldn't want us to exit this stage without talking about tomorrow's event that you're having in collaboration with KNH and KMTC. Talk to us a bit about that in 2 minutes?
Yes. The Kenya Society of Physiotherapy, which is a registered entity under the Registrar of Society, whose primary mandate is to promote good practice of physiotherapy, not only taking care of our physiotherapists, but taking care of the consumer of the services, which is the patient, and other stakeholders that are involved, like the payers, the insurance companies, among others, has organized 8th September. That we are going to commemorate the World Physiotherapy Day. We are doing this, number one, because we are a fully affiliated member of the World Governing Body. It only happens for people who are affiliated members. Okay? So what we are doing tomorrow, we are inviting the public, whether you are sick or not sick, come for free screening of anything to do with muscles, tendons, joints, ligament at Kenyatta National Hospital at the parking lot. We have combined. We are actually having more than the two that you mentioned. We have Nairobi Hospital coming. We have Karen Hospital coming. We have other hospitals coming. We're expecting over 200 physiotherapists. So we welcome patients for a free screening. The event will be flagged off by the CEO, Kenyatta National Hospital. The walk, we shall have a walk, 7-kilometer walk with it's called what? Don Bosco Boys Band. So we shall be marching, which is part of exercise.
From what time?
From 8 a.m. Let's all assemble in Kenyatta. The walk will be flagged off at 9 a.m. by the CEO Kenyatta, and the day we shall finish the day in KMTC auditorium with a keynote speech from the CEO of KMTC, Dr. Kelly.
All right. Good place to end it. Thank you so much, Henry Opondo, who is the president, Kenya Society of Physiotherapists, and he has just been here talking to us about what physiotherapy means and trying to understand all this, again, culminating it with the event happening tomorrow during the World Physiotherapists Day. Good place to also end Good Morning Kenya. I'm Doreen Arange Okello on behalf of the entire team. Asante sana, paving way for News Check coming in up next.
To the Second Chance TV game show.
Tough questions.
Virunga National Park is located within which mountain ranges? Aberdare. Aberdare? Is that your final answer?
Tough challenges.
3, 2, 1, go!
It's a survival for the smartest.
10 seconds to go. Who is the current president of Malawi?
Jakaya Kikwete.
Wrong answer. That is the wrong answer. Does it border to the east? Nakuru County. Nakuru County, you get 2,000 bob.
Premiering soon on Channel 1.
It was during my days at Skywall. I was a fool.
Have you forgotten you're marrying Suzanne today?